The first time I saw another man's name in my seat, I thought somebody from the venue had made a mistake. The card was cream-colored, thick enough to survive a flood, with Martin Vale written in gold above the plate beside my daughter. I had seen my own card there the night before. I remembered because Lila had straightened it, stepped back, and said, "Okay, that looks right." Now my name was 6 tables away, near the kitchen doors. I found her in the passage behind the reception hall, holding up her dress while a woman with a headset worked on the bustle. Lila looked flushed and beautiful and impatient. "Sweetheart," I said, "they moved the place cards." She went still for half a second. Then she said, "I know." The woman with the headset suddenly became fascinated by a safety pin. "Martin needs to sit with Mom," Lila continued. "And this is just cleaner, for the pictures, for everything." I looked at her face, waiting for some sign that she hated saying it. Maybe she did. That was the trouble with Lila. She could love you and still hand you the knife as long as she believed you wouldn't use it against her. "Did your mother ask you to do this?" "No." Her voice sharpened. "I chose it." Music started beyond the wall. Glasses clinked. Somebody laughed like nothing had happened. "Please, Dad," she said, "don't make this harder than it needs to be." So I took the seat she gave me, and I stayed until the toast. 3 months earlier, Lila called while I was lying on my back beneath Dana's porch swing. It was not technically Dana's porch swing. It had belonged to her mother, and after the divorce, it had gone with Dana, along with the blue mixing bowls, the better vacuum, and every photograph in which I looked thin. The swing's left chain had been squeaking for 6 weeks. Dana had texted me twice, then sent a 12-second video demonstrating the squeak as though I might suspect her of inventing it. "You hear that?" she had asked in the video. I had heard it. So had most of Central Maryland. I was replacing the eye bolt when my phone buzzed in my shirt pocket. I got it out with one hand and nearly dropped it on my face. "Dad?" Lila said. "Are you busy?" I looked up through the wooden slats at 20 years of paint layers. Nope, that was my first mistake. Not the lie itself, the speed of it. "I need you to tell me I'm not insane. Is this about the wedding?" "It's always about the wedding." In the background I heard papers sliding, and a man say something too muffled to catch. Owen, probably. He was a decent man, with a voice made for telling you the restaurant had lost your reservation, but everything was going to be okay. Lila lowered her voice. "The venue wants $900 for an accessibility ramp." "Temporary aluminum?" "I don't know." "It's a ramp. Those are 2 different conversations." "See, this is why I called you." I slid out from under the swing. Dana stood inside the screen door, holding 2 glasses of iced tea. At 59, she still had the posture of somebody waiting for a photographer to notice her. Her hair was shorter than when we were married, and somehow required more equipment. "Who is it?" she asked. I held up one finger. "Can you look at the venue?" Lila asked. "Not today, whenever." "Send me what they sent you. I knew you'd know. It was such a small sentence. 4 words, really. But a father can live on less than that for months." Dana handed me a glass when I hung up. "You've got grease on your ear," she said. "It's not grease." "What is it?" I touched my ear. "Grease." She smiled despite herself. That was Dana's most confusing quality. She could be unfair for an entire afternoon, then laugh in a way that reminded me why I had married her. "Lila?" she asked. "The venue ramp." "Oh, good. Martin said you'd handle it." I looked toward the driveway where Martin's silver SUV was not parked. "Did he?" "He has that conference in Richmond." "What conference?" Dana waved away the question. Martin sold commercial kitchen equipment and attended conferences with names that sounded like government agencies. He owned more embroidered polo shirts than any man I knew. "He's been wonderful through all this," Dana said. "Honestly, Peter, I don't know what we would do without him." I took a drink of tea. Under the swing, the old eye bolt lay beside my wrench, bent almost straight from years of holding everyone's weight. The venue was a converted textile mill outside Frederick, all dark beams, tall windows, and exposed brick that appeared to have been exposed at considerable expense. Lila met me there the next Thursday with a binder pressed to her chest. My daughter had inherited Dana's eyes and my habit of arriving early. At 32, she was still able to look competent and lost at the same time. Her blonde hair was clipped up with a pen. A tape measure hung from her coat pocket. "You brought a tape measure," I said. "You taught me." "I taught you to bring one. I never taught you to wear it as jewelry." She hugged me with one arm because of the binder. That was Lila lately, always holding something between us, even when she reached for me. Owen appeared from the loading area, carrying 3 coffees and looking mildly alarmed. "I got you black," he told me. "You remembered." "He wrote it in his phone," Lila said. Owen gave her a wounded look. Remembering to write something down is still remembering. He handed me the cup. "Martin's coming too." "He is?" "He wants to be involved," Lila said. There was nothing wrong with that. I told myself so twice. Martin arrived 18 minutes late in a navy blazer, talking into a wireless earpiece. He pointed at us to indicate that he saw us, which was useful because we had all been worried his vision had failed in the parking lot. "Sorry," he said after ending the call. "Crisis with a walk-in freezer. People don't appreciate refrigeration until chicken gets warm." "That should be on a t-shirt," Owen said. Martin clapped him on the shoulder. "I like this guy." He liked Owen. He said it often, usually while Owen was standing there. The venue manager showed us the doorway in question. The threshold sat 3 inches above the courtyard, and the rented ramp in the proposal was absurdly overbuilt. I measured, asked about the expected traffic, and explained that a simpler certified unit would do the job safely. Lila leaned close. "How much simpler? About $700 simpler." She squeezed my wrist. "I love you." Martin gave a low whistle. "This is why we keep him around." He said it as a joke. I laughed as though it was one. Afterward, we walked through the reception hall. Bare in the afternoon light, it looked less romantic. Folding tables leaned against one wall. A forklift beeped somewhere beyond the loading doors. Dust floated in the high windows. Lila opened her binder to the seating diagram. "This is not final," she said. "Nothing is final," Owen said. "I've learned that's what final means." She ignored him and placed the diagram on a table. There would be one long table across the front for the immediate families and wedding party. She showed me where I would sit beside her. Dana would be on Lila's other side, with Martin beside Dana. Owen's parents and sister filled the other end. Martin studied the page. "I'm way down here," he said. He was 2 chairs from Lila. "You're next to Mom," she said. No, it's fine, I'm teasing." He kissed the top of her head, but he kept looking at the diagram. I noticed because I had spent 18 years noticing what made people unhappy, then moving myself until they weren't. In the courtyard, Lila showed us the arbor she had rented for the ceremony. One of the crosspieces had split near a screw. She had tried to hide it with artificial eucalyptus. "Can you save it?" she asked me. "That depends. Do you want it repaired, or do you want more eucalyptus?" "Repaired." Martin ran a thumb over the crack. "We can knock this out. I've got clamps." I looked at him. "You do?" "Somewhere." He smiled. Martin had a way of making uncertainty sound like leadership. The arbor ended up in my garage. So did 6 wooden signs, a box of brass lanterns with broken latches, and a display stand Dana had bought online because the reviews said, "Assembly required," and she considered that a personal invitation. Every few days Lila came by after work, kicked off her shoes in my kitchen, and ate whatever I had made while I repaired the wedding around her. Those evenings were the best part. She would sit at the counter with spreadsheets open on her laptop and complain about linen colors. "They're both white," I said one night. "One is ivory. That's white that needs attention." She laughed, mouthful of meatloaf, and for an hour I had my daughter back. Not the bride, not Dana's ally, not Martin's grateful almost daughter. Just Lila, stealing the crisp edge from the pan and leaving her shoes where I would trip over them. One night, she noticed the walnut board stacked on my workbench. "What are those?" "Nothing yet." She narrowed her eyes. That sounded suspicious. I told her I planned to make a box for the letters she and Owen were exchanging before the ceremony. She went quiet. "You don't have to do that." "I know. Mom was going to order one." "I know." She ran 2 fingers along the grain. "Could you put a little drawer underneath? For other stuff later?" "Depends what other stuff weighs." "Paper, Dad. People put strange things in drawers." She smiled, but her eyes shone. A little drawer would be nice. So I added the drawer. The toast came later. We were in my kitchen, arguing over whether the walnut box needed felt inside, when she closed her laptop and said, too casually, "Would you be willing to say a few words at the reception?" I kept my attention on the hinge in my hand. "What kind of words?" "The nice kind." That narrows it down. "I want you to do the father toast." My thumb slipped on the hinge. It left a shallow cut beside my nail. Lila reached for my hand. You're bleeding. It's walnut. It fights back. She pulled a paper towel from the roll and wrapped it around my thumb. Her hands were warm and sure. Is that a yes? She asked. I looked at the top of her head. I remembered teaching her to tie her shoes, then teaching her to drive, then standing in her first apartment while she insisted the neighborhood noise was charming and not at all frightening. I remembered 100 things I had never told her I remembered. Yeah, I said. That's a yes. She kissed my cheek. For the next 6 weeks, I wrote the toast on yellow legal paper at the little desk in my spare room. I wrote it by hand because typing made every sentence look like it belonged to a business meeting. I crossed out every joke that made me sound bitter and every memory that belonged more to me than to her. What remained was simple. Lila had always been braver than she knew. Owen did not try to make her smaller when she was afraid. I hoped they would learn that being needed was not the same as being loved, and being loved was not permission to take someone for granted. That last line bothered me. I crossed it out. The night before the wedding, we rehearsed at the mill. Dana adjusted people with 2 fingers at their elbows. Martin made everyone laugh by pretending to walk down the aisle ahead of Lila. Owen's mother, Judith, kept calling Martin the bride's father, and nobody corrected her. At dinner, Lila leaned over my shoulder to inspect my folded toast. Don't read it, I said. I'm making sure you didn't print 20 pages. It's handwritten. That's somehow more dangerous. She smiled and straightened the place card beside her plate. Mine. Okay, she said, stepping back. That looks right. Across the table, Martin watched her hand leave my chair. The next morning, the temporary ramp arrived 4 inches too short. The venue manager called me at 7:13, which told me Lila had put my number on a list somewhere under emergencies. I was already dressed. My suit hung from the bedroom door, and the folded yellow pages of my toast were tucked into the inside pocket. Can we make it work? The manager asked. Not safely. There was a pause. The delivery guy says, it'll be fine. The delivery guy is leaving. Another pause. I'll call the rental company. Now we're getting somewhere. I made coffee and ate toast over the sink. Dana used to hate when I did that. She said plates were not ceremonial objects. I had never understood why eating over the sink bothered her more than the crumbs I was trying not to leave. By 8, the rental company had found the correct ramp in Gaithersburg. By 9:30, it was installed. I did not touch it beyond checking the locking pins because the venue had people for that. Growth can be measured in small things. Inside, the mill was already vibrating with preparation. White tablecloth snapped open. Buckets of flowers blocked the hallway. A man rolled a tower of glassware past me, with the calm expression of someone transporting uranium. Owen found me near the courtyard. You're here, he said. I was invited. No, I mean, already here. So do I. He looked tired enough to confess to something. His tie was hanging loose around his neck, and one cuff was fastened while the other flapped open. Ramp? He asked. Handled. His shoulders dropped an inch. I love you. You and Lila need to work on new material. He laughed, then glanced toward the stairs. She's upstairs. I'm not allowed within 100 feet. Court order? Dana. More powerful. Owen held out his hand, then changed his mind and hugged me. He was taller than I was and smelled like hotel soap. Thanks for everything, he said. It should have felt good. It did feel good. That was what made the rest of the day possible. Upstairs, the bridal room looked as though satin had exploded. Garment bags hung from exposed pipes. Makeup brushes covered a table. Dana stood in front of a mirror wearing a pale blue dress and one earring. What are you doing here? She asked. Getting married. Don't joke. I nearly had a stroke when they said the ramp was wrong. The ramp is right now. I knew you'd take care of it. She turned her head from side to side, searching for the missing earring. It's in your hand, I said. She looked down. Of course it is. Martin was in the adjoining room with Owen and the other men, but his voice carried through the wall. He was telling a story about a refrigeration convention in Orlando. The story involved a hotel pool, a sales representative from Ohio, and enough laughter to suggest the representative had not been wearing pants. Lila emerged from behind a divider. For a moment, I forgot the ramp, Dana, the toast, and every difficult year between the woman in front of me and the girl she had been. Her dress was simple, with long, clean lines and no sparkle except at her ears. Her hair was pinned at the back of her neck. She looked like herself, only more certain. Well? She asked. I cleared my throat. I've seen worse. Dad. "You look beautiful." Her face changed. Not much. Just enough. Dana came over to adjust something at Lila's waist that did not need adjusting. "Peter brought the box?" "I had left it downstairs with the venue coordinator. It's in the letter room." "Letter room," Dana repeated. "Everything has a room now." Lila reached for my hand. "Can I see it?" The coordinator brought us to a small office where 2 envelopes sat on a table, one with Lila's name and one with Owen's. The walnut box waited beside them. I had rubbed the final coat of oil into it 4 days earlier. In the morning light, the grain moved like dark water. Lila lifted the lid. Inside, I had lined the bottom with cream felt. The little drawer beneath opened on 2 brass pins. She ran her thumb along the corner joint. "You made this?" "I told you I was making it. I thought you meant like making it." "I didn't know you meant making it. I don't know what that means." She laughed, but tears had gathered along her lower lashes. "I'm not allowed to cry yet. You can schedule it. Mom did." I handed her the box. She held it against her dress, then looked at me with the expression she used when she wanted to say something that might cost her. "I know today is weird," she said. "It's a wedding. Weird comes with the chairs. I mean with everybody here. Everybody is always somewhere." She glanced toward the door. Dana was calling for her from the hall. Lila kissed my cheek. "Thank you for making everything easier." Then she was gone. I stood beside the empty table until the coordinator asked if she could put the envelopes in the box. The ceremony began 20 minutes late, which I was told counted as punctual. I sat in the first row beside Dana. Martin sat on her other side, his knee bouncing beneath his trousers. Lila had decided to walk down the aisle alone. Dana called it modern. Martin called it strong. I thought it looked lonely, but I did not say so. When Lila appeared at the far end of the courtyard, Owen pressed his lips together. She saw him, and the uncertainty left her face. She walked toward him without looking to either side. The repaired arbor stood behind them. Halfway through the vows, a truck downshifted on the road beyond the mill, and someone's phone began playing jazz from inside a handbag. Lila laughed. Owen lost his place. The officiant, a gray-haired friend of theirs named Renee, waited until the phone was silenced and said, "Marriage is mostly deciding which interruptions deserve your attention." That was the best thing anybody said all day. After the ceremony came photographs. The photographer was a small woman named Tasha, who moved adults by pointing at them. "Bride's parents," she called. Dana took Martin's arm and stepped beside Lila. I stayed where I was. Tasha looked at her list, then at me. "And Dad?" For one strange second, nobody moved. Lila said, "Both of them." She reached out, and I stepped into the picture on her other side. Martin placed his hand high on her shoulder. Dana tilted her chin. I did not know where to put my hands, so I folded them in front of me like a man waiting to discuss a water bill. "Closer," Tasha said. We all moved half an inch and pretended it solved something. There were photographs with Dana and Martin, photographs with Owen's parents, photographs with the wedding party, and one with just Lila and me. Tasha asked me to look at my daughter instead of the camera. Lila smiled up at me. "Don't get emotional. Wouldn't dream of it." The camera clicked. At cocktail hour, I carried a drink I did not want and spoke to people whose names I almost remembered. Martin worked the room like he was running for county office. He shook hands, touched elbows, introduced himself as the bonus dad, and told the ramp story 3 times. "Peter saved us $700, he said to Owen's father, Russell. "That's his superpower." Russell, a retired orthodontist with perfect teeth, nodded at me. "Good man to have around." "Yes, he is," Martin said. "There are compliments that put an arm around you and compliments that put you in a toolbox." Dana intercepted me near the bar. "Could you find Beverly?" she asked. "She's supposed to be at table 9, and I think she's bothering the musicians." "Who's Beverly?" "My cousin." "The one from Delaware?" "No, the one who won't go to Delaware anymore." That did not help, but I found Beverly near the musicians, explaining why wedding bands should know more Motown. She followed me willingly after I told her the saxophone player needed to work. By the time the reception doors opened, I had located 2 missing purses, tightened a loose screw on the walnut box display, and shown the bartender where the venue kept the extra ice scoop. Then I saw Martin's name beside Lila's plate. The conversation in the back passage happened exactly as it had to happen, I asked. Lila admitted it. Nobody raised a voice. Even the woman fixing her bustle understood enough to keep her eyes lowered. When Lila said she had chosen it, I believed her. That hurt more than if Dana had forced her. At table 7, my place was between Beverly and a woman named Noreen, who had worked with Dana at a title company in the 90s. Every time a server came through the swinging kitchen door, warm air touched the back of my neck. Beverly examined my place card. "I thought you were sitting up there." "So did I." "Want me to say something?" "No, I'm very good at saying something." I noticed. She gave me a long look, then patted my hand. For the rest of dinner, she told me which of Dana's relatives had stopped speaking to one another and why. Most of the reasons involved vacation rentals. Across the room, Martin sat beside Lila. He leaned back easily, one arm across the back of his chair. Dana looked pleased. Owen looked busy greeting guests. Once, Lila met my eyes. Her smile faltered, but she did not look away first. I ate the chicken. The folded toast pressed against my chest every time I moved. When the speeches began, Owen's sister spoke first. Then his best friend told a story involving a broken kayak. Russell welcomed Lila to the family. Dana gave a short, surprisingly tender speech about learning to let a daughter make her own choices. Then Martin stood. He did not use notes. He spoke about meeting Lila when she was 16, how she had looked at him as if he were a substitute teacher nobody had asked for. People laughed, so did I. It was funny, and it was true. He described teaching her to parallel park, sitting with her after a bad breakup, helping her move into her first apartment. I had been at that move. Martin had arrived late with pizza. But nobody wants corrections during a toast. His voice thickened. "I didn't give this woman life," he said, resting a hand on Lila's shoulder. "But I was blessed to give her the home where she learned what dependable love looks like." Applause moved through the room. Lila stood and hugged him. Someone handed her the microphone. She wiped beneath one eye and said, "To the dad, who stayed." Glasses rose. Mine stayed on the table. The master of ceremonies thanked Martin and introduced the best man. I waited until the room turned toward him. Then, I took the yellow pages from my jacket, folded them once more, and put them in my pants pocket. Beverly touched my sleeve. "Peter." "I'm all right." "No, you're behaving all right. That's different." I stood, buttoned my jacket, and crossed the room before I could think of a reason not to. Lila saw me coming. For one hopeful instant, she reached for the microphone. I bent down, kissed her temple, and said, "Congratulations, sweetheart." Her fingers closed around my wrist. "You're leaving?" "You made your choice. I'm trying not to make it harder." I slipped my hand free and walked out through the kitchen doors. The kitchen was louder than the reception hall. Pans struck metal counters. A dishwasher hissed. 2 servers pressed themselves against a shelf to let me pass, their faces carefully blank. They had seen people leave weddings before. They probably had categories. I went through the courtyard and down the ramp I had spent the morning getting corrected. The locking pins held perfectly. In the parking lot, music pushed through the mill's brick walls in a dull, steady thump. I stood beside my truck and waited for someone to call my name. No one did. That was unfair of me. If Lila had followed, I would have told her to go back inside. If Dana had followed, I would have kept walking. If Martin had followed, the evening might have ended with one of us saying something that could never be returned. Still, I waited. My phone vibrated after I turned onto the highway. It was a picture from Beverly, a slice of cake beside an empty chair. Underneath, she had written, "It's dry." I laughed once, which came out sounding bad in the cab. At home, I hung my suit jacket over the kitchen chair and forgot the toast was no longer in it. The yellow pages went through the washing machine 2 days later. By then, the ink had bled into blue veins and whole sentences had dissolved. That seemed more fitting than keeping them in a drawer. That night, though, the pages were still folded in my pants pocket. I took them out and set them on the counter beside my keys. The house was warm. I had left the air conditioning too high because no one had been home to complain. A plate covered with foil sat in the refrigerator, leftovers from the rehearsal dinner that Dana had handed me in the parking lot. I ate cold potatoes standing at the sink. At 11:40, Owen texted, "You okay?" I looked at the words until the screen dimmed, then typed, "I'm home. Congratulations again." He answered almost immediately, "I'm sorry." I did not know what part he meant, and I did not ask. Lila called at 12:17. The music behind her was loud enough that I could hear people singing along to something from the 90s. I let it ring. She called again. I turned the phone face down. The next morning, I woke at 6 because disappointment does not adjust your internal clock. My first thought was that I had forgotten to return the rented clamps. My second was that the clamps belonged to me. There were 14 messages in the family group thread. Dana had started with, "Where did Peter go?" Lila answered, "He left." Martin wrote, "Maybe he wasn't feeling well." Beverly replied, "He was feeling plenty." Someone named Marcia posted 3 question marks. Russell thanked everyone for a wonderful evening, apparently unaware he had walked into an argument. Owen wrote that I had gotten home safely. Dana asked why I had not told anyone I was leaving, and Lila said, "He told me." At 7:12, Dana called. "You upset your daughter," she said, before saying hello. "Good morning," she cried in the hotel elevator. "I'm sorry," she cried. "That's not an apology." It wasn't one. Dana went silent. I heard the clatter of breakfast dishes and Martin's voice asking where the coffee was. They were at the hotel brunch. I could picture the room. Chafing pans, bruised fruit, relatives wearing yesterday's makeup and discussing traffic. "You couldn't give her one day?" Dana asked. "I gave her the day. You walked out. After the toast. Before the cake. I didn't know cake was the moral deadline." "Don't be clever, Peter. It doesn't suit you. That was a sentence from our marriage. It landed in the same old place." I picked up the yellow pages and aligned their edges. "Did you ask Lila to move my seat?" "What?" "You heard me. I told her the arrangement was awkward." "Awkward for whom?" "There were too many parents at one table. Judith and Russell are still married. You and I are not. Martin is my husband. There was no way to make it symmetrical. Tables don't need symmetry. They hold plates." "Oh, please. You know how these things look." "Yes," I said. "I know exactly how that looked." Her voice softened, which was more dangerous than when it sharpened. "Martin has been a father to her for 16 years. "I know." "Then why are you acting threatened?" "I'm not threatened by Martin. I'm tired of being grateful while people move me out of the picture." "You were in pictures." 6 tables away," I almost said. Instead, I asked, "Was skipping my toast part of the symmetry?" Dana did not answer. That told me she had known. "Lila made the final decisions," she said. "I know. She told me. She's waiting for you to come to brunch." "I'm not coming. Don't punish her on the first morning of her marriage. I'm not going to sit in a hotel and help everyone pretend last night was fine. What do you want her to do? Turn the wedding back on?" "No." "Then what?" It was a fair question. I had spent so many years wanting nothing allowed that the answer felt oversized in my mouth. I want her to understand that if I'm not her father when people are watching, I'm not going to keep doing the work when they aren't. Dana gave a short breath. "So, this is transactional now?" "No. It has been transactional for years. I'm the one who just noticed." I ended the call before she could tell me who I was. Lila called 3 minutes later. I answered. "Are you really not coming?" she asked. Her voice was rough. I could hear a door close, cutting off the brunch noise. "No. You told Mom you're done being my father. That isn't what I said. That's what she heard. Your mother has always been talented at hearing improvements. This isn't funny. No, it isn't." She breathed into the phone. I imagined her standing in some beige hotel hallway wearing sandals and the white dress she had bought for brunch. There would be pins still buried in her hair. "I asked you not to make a scene," she said. "I didn't. You left." Quietly, everyone noticed. Eventually. "You came up to me during the speeches. I kissed you and congratulated you. And then you used my own words against me." I had. I could admit that much. "Yes," I said. "That wasn't kind." She seemed startled. In our family, an admission usually meant the argument had found its ending. Lila waited for me to continue into an apology. I did not. "What was I supposed to do?" she asked. "Put 3 parents beside me and make Owen's family wonder what kind of mess they were joining? I thought they already knew your mother was divorced. That's not what I meant. It's what you said. Martin helped raise me. I know. He was there, Dad. The sentence hung between us. So was I said. Not in the same way." "No, not in the same way." She began crying then, quietly and angrily. I almost reached for my keys. I could have been at the hotel in under an hour. I would have found her, bought her coffee, carried the gifts to Owen's car, and fixed whatever came next. That was how we had survived every hard conversation. I gripped the counter instead. "I love you," I said. "Nothing about last night changes that. It feels like it does. What changes is what I'm willing to pretend. So, you're going to hold my wedding over me forever?" "I hope not." "What does that mean?" It means I'm not deciding the rest of our lives at 7:30 in the morning, she sniffed. We leave at noon. I hope you have a good trip. Are you serious? Yes. She hung up. I put the phone down and stood in my kitchen listening to the refrigerator cycle on. My keys were inches from my hand. At 9, I went into the garage and worked on a cedar bench I had promised a friend from the transit shop. The back slat would not sit flush. I planed it, checked the angle, and planed it again. By noon, I had taken off too much and ruined the piece. I had not ruined a piece of cedar in 20 years. The following week was so quiet it felt staged. Lila and Owen were away in Vermont. Dana did not contact me. Martin sent one message on Tuesday. I hate how things ended. Hope we can clear the air. I answered, Did you know that was my seat? The typing dots appeared, vanished, then returned. Dana said arrangements had changed. I didn't want to interfere. I looked at that for a while. You sat in it, I wrote. He did not answer. On Thursday, the venue called about the arbor. The rental company refused to take it because of the repair, claiming it had been altered, though the repair was the only reason it had remained standing. Lila had listed me as the person to contact. Would you be able to pick it up? The coordinator asked. The couple is away. Of course I was able. Ability had never been the problem. I drove to Frederick and loaded the arbor into my truck. The courtyard was empty except for round tables stacked beneath a canvas cover. Inside, another wedding was already being assembled. Different flowers, different linens, same tall windows. Tasha, the photographer, was in the lobby meeting with the new couple. She recognized me and excused herself. I have something for you, she said. She opened her camera bag and handed me a business card with a web address written on the back. Previews, she said. I usually send them to the bride, but there's a good one of you two. I don't think I'm supposed to see them yet. You're not hacking the Pentagon. She smiled and returned to her meeting. At home, I leaned the arbor pieces against my garage wall. They took up the space where I parked the lawnmower. Artificial eucalyptus still clung to one corner. I pulled at it, but the wire was wrapped too tightly, so I left it. I entered the web address on my computer. There were 87 preview photographs, Lila fastening an earring, Owen laughing with his head down, Dana and Martin dancing, the walnut box open on the letter table, Martin standing with his glass raised, one hand on Lila's shoulder. Then I found the photograph of Lila and me. She was looking up at me. I was looking back at her. Neither of us appeared distant. I downloaded it before I could decide not to. The next Monday, Dana texted about her porch. The railing had started to loosen near the top step. Her birthday dinner was in 2 weeks, and people would be using the front entrance. She asked if I could stop by Saturday morning, adding that it should only take 20 minutes. I stared at the message long enough for the old answer to form. Sure. Instead, I wrote, I can send you the name of the carpenter who repaired Mrs. Keene's deck. Dana responded with a thumbs up. 10 minutes later, Lila called. She and Owen were home. I could hear a turn signal clicking. Mom says you won't fix the porch. Your mother has a phone. She can call the carpenter. She doesn't know him. That's why I offered his name. Dad, it's one loose railing. Then Martin should have no trouble with it. He's traveling. I'm not. Exactly. The word came out before she understood what she had said. Silence filled the car around her. She changed direction. Owen and I close on the duplex Friday. That's good. We were hoping to start the kitchen next weekend. I remember. You said you'd help. I had. Standing in their apartment 2 months earlier, I had said we could strip the cabinets, check the wiring, and see what they were dealing with behind the plaster. Lila had made a list based on that promise. I'm not doing the kitchen next weekend, I said. Because of the wedding? Because I need some distance. Same thing. No. One is something you did. The other is something I'm doing. Her turn signal kept clicking. Finally she said, How much distance? I don't know. That's convenient. It doesn't feel convenient. She ended the call without goodbye. I went to the garage and looked at the repaired arbor blocking the lawnmower. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Owen. Can I come by? Alone? I wrote, yes. He arrived 40 minutes later, carrying a bakery box and a 6-pack. He held one in each hand as if offering me a choice between adulthood and dessert. We got sent home with most of the wedding cake, he said. Turns out people stop eating once the dancing starts. I didn't know that. I didn't either. We have 11 pounds of fondant in our freezer. I took the beer. Come in. He followed me through the kitchen, then noticed the arbor leaning against the garage wall. "Why is that here?" the venue called. Of course they did. He put the bakery box on my workbench and lifted the loose tail of eucalyptus. "Lila wanted to save some of this for the house. She can take all of it. She loves fake plants. She has a lot of her mother in her." Owen smiled but did not step into that opening. Another reason I liked him. He had changed since the wedding, though not in any way a person could photograph. The cautious politeness was still there, but he carried it differently. Marriage had made him responsible for a door he had previously been allowed to stand outside. I opened 2 beers and handed him one. "How was Vermont?" "Wet. That sounds like Vermont." "We had a good time. Mostly." He turned the bottle between his palms. "Lila spent a lot of it checking her phone. I didn't send anything, I know." We stood with the arbor between us. In the open drawer of my workbench, the corner of the printed wedding photograph was visible beneath a package of sandpaper. I pushed the drawer shut with my hip. Owen took a drink. "I'm not here to ask you to work on the duplex." That was going to be my first question, I figured. "Did Lila send you?" "No." "Does she know you're here?" "Yes." That answer took me a while to earn. I leaned against the bench. "What do you want to know?" He considered that. Whether I missed something, at the wedding, before it. "With all of you? You missed 18 years. I know. I'm asking for the short version. There isn't one. Then give me the part where my wife moves her father away from her table and tells me you're okay with it. That stopped me." "She told you I was okay with it?" "She said she'd handled it." That is not the same sentence. It was close enough when I was standing in a hallway with one shoe on. I looked down at his shoes. Both were present now. "When did she tell you?" I asked. "Wedding morning." Dana said the seating looked lopsided. Martin sitting 2 chairs away made it seem like he was less important. Lila moved him beside her. "And you?" I asked where you were going. "What did she say? That you didn't care about that kind of thing?" I laughed, but there was no humor available. Owen rubbed his forehead. "I should have checked with you. You were getting married. That doesn't make me stupid." "No, it makes you busy enough for other people to use." He stared at me. "That sounded personal," he said. It probably was. A lawnmower started somewhere down the street. I could smell cedar from the ruined slat on my bench and sugar from the cake box. Owen opened the lid. Inside were 2 thick slices with white icing and crushed flowers. "Piece cake?" he offered. "Is that what this is?" "No, I just need it out of my house." We ate with plastic forks. The cake was not dry. I decided not to tell Beverly. Owen scraped frosting from the side of his slice. "Lila thinks you're making her choose between you and Martin." "I'm not. She thinks if she apologizes, she's admitting he doesn't count." "Martin counts." "You don't sound happy about it." "I'm not happy about how the counting is done." He nodded slowly. I said, "Martin sat with her after her first serious breakup. I know because I called that night, and Dana said Lila didn't want to talk. I didn't push. Martin did. That matters. She's told me that story. I taught her to parallel park." His fork stopped. Martin said he did. He sat in the passenger seat once and shouted contradictory instructions. I spent 4 Sundays with her in an empty office park. Owen looked down at his cake. "It isn't about parking," I said. "No." I was there. But I made myself easy to overlook. After the divorce, whenever Dana changed a weekend or spoke for Lila, I accepted it because I thought fighting would make things worse. I also didn't know how to ask my daughter what she felt without having a wrench in my hand. "That doesn't explain the toast." "No." "What was your toast going to say?" I looked toward the kitchen door. "Nice things." "Peter?" "That she was braver than she knew. That you don't make her smaller when she's afraid." He blinked and looked away. "I like that," he said. So did I. He put his fork down. "I'm angry with her. Be careful with that. She lied to me. She told you the version she needed to be true. That's a generous description of lying." I didn't say it wasn't lying. He paced to the garage opening and back. "I don't want this to be the first thing we divide over." "Then don't divide. Talk." She cries. "Yes. People do that." I'm not saying she does it on purpose. Neither am I. But then I'm comforting her. And somehow, we're not talking anymore. I smiled despite myself. "You married Lila," he laughed once. "I did. Don't use me as evidence against her. If you have a problem with what she told you, it belongs to the 2 of you. What about your problem? That belongs to me and her." He picked up his beer. That sounds organized? It isn't. Before he left, he carried the arbor pieces across the garage so I could reach the mower. We stacked them beside the cedar boards. It was a small job, but he did not announce he was helping me or take a picture of it. At the door, he paused. You know she loves you. I know. She doesn't know what to do now. Neither do I. That's going to bother her. It bothers me too. Dana's birthday dinner was the following Sunday, not 2 weeks later as she had told me. She had moved it because Martin's Richmond conference had moved, then forgotten that other people's calendars were not extensions of hers. I almost declined. Then I imagined the family explanation. Peter refused to attend because he was still angry about the wedding. That was not entirely false, but it was not the whole truth either. I bought Dana a bottle of the Italian wine she liked and arrived at 6. The porch railing no longer moved. A small brass plate near the bottom showed the carpenter's company name. Dana opened the door before I knocked. You came? I said I would. You also used to say you'd fix things. Happy birthday, Dana. I handed her the wine. She examined the label and softened. You remembered. It's the same thing I bought last year. Yes, but you remembered that. Her house smelled like roast beef and rosemary. The porch swing was covered in cushions nobody was supposed to sit on. Martin stood at the dining room bar wearing one of his conference polos and pouring drinks. Pete, he said. Good to see you. He called me Pete when he wanted the room to believe we were closer than we were. Martin, he offered his hand. I shook it. Can I get you something? Water's fine. Come on. Birthday rules. Water still works on birthdays. His smile tightened, then recovered. Water it is. Lila and Owen arrived 10 minutes later. Lila hugged Dana for a long time, hugged Martin, then turned to me. Hi, she said. Hi. We made the mistake of trying to hug at the same time we tried to shake hands. Her shoulder struck my chest. My hand landed somewhere near her elbow. That was normal, Owen said. Lila laughed. I did too. For a few minutes, the room became survivable. At dinner, Dana seated me between Beverly and Owen. I suspected Beverly had requested it. I like the cake, I told her. She frowned. At the wedding, Owen brought me some. That piece must have been different. Across the table, Lila heard and looked at Owen. He concentrated on cutting his roast beef. Dana asked about Vermont. Martin told a story about the time he had driven through a snowstorm near Burlington. Russell and Judith were not there, but he told it as if they might need proof that he understood their son's honeymoon. When the plates were half empty, Dana asked about the duplex. We close Friday, Lila said. Assuming the lender doesn't invent a new form. Old houses are nothing but forms with plumbing, Martin said. Owen nodded toward me. Peter said the wiring looked better than expected. Every face at the table shifted slightly. When did he look at it? Dana asked. Before the wedding, Lila said. I did a walkthrough, I said. I didn't open anything. Lila folded her napkin, then unfolded it. We're hiring somebody for the kitchen. The sentence was aimed at no one, and me. That's probably wise, I said. We can't get anyone for 6 weeks. That's common. And the cabinets have to come out before the electrician starts. Then schedule the electrician later. Her mouth tightened. We can't live there with half a kitchen. You don't live there yet? We have to be out of the apartment by the end of the month. Martin leaned forward. What exactly needs doing? Lila glanced at him. The upper cabinets, part of the plaster, maybe the old soffit. Dad was going to help us see what was behind it. I can do demo, Martin said. Dana smiled as if a difficult equation had solved itself. Owen said, You don't have to. I want to. We'll knock it out next Saturday. Martin, Dana warned pleasantly. You just got back. So, family needs help. He looked at Lila. That's what dads are for. Nobody spoke. Martin's expression changed as he heard his own words. I mean parents. You know what I mean. Lila reached across the corner of the table and touched his hand. Thank you, she said. Relief moved through her face so quickly she could not hide it. I understood that relief. A job had been assigned. The machine would keep running. Beverly set down her fork. Well, she said, somebody pass the potatoes before they become a metaphor. Owen choked on his water. The conversation moved on, but Lila did not look at me again until I was leaving. She followed me onto the porch while everyone else argued about candles. The new railing felt solid beneath my hand. I didn't ask him to say that, she said. I know. He offered. I heard him. You think he can't do it. I think he said he can. She crossed her arms against the evening air. You want him to fail? No, yes you do. I want you to stop looking at me every time Martin opens his mouth. She flinched. I stepped down onto the walkway. Behind her, the porch swing gave one soft, familiar squeak. I had fixed the bolt. The sound was coming from the other side now. Dad. I turned. Her face was half lit by the dining room window. If I had kept your seat, she asked, would everything be okay? It was the first honest question she had asked me since the wedding. No, I said. But I might still have believed it was. Then I left her standing beside the railing she had paid someone else to repair. The next Friday, Owen sent me a photograph of 2 brass keys resting in Lila's palm. Homeowners, he wrote. I answered, congratulations. Change the locks. He replied with a laughing face. Then, seriously, seriously. That evening, another picture appeared in the family thread. Lila stood in the duplex kitchen wearing safety glasses while Martin held a red pry bar over one shoulder. Dana had captioned it, The Demolition Crew. The kitchen behind them had not changed since the late 70s. Brown cabinets, yellow countertops, a wallpaper border of tiny blue pitchers. The stove sat crooked between 2 base cabinets because the floor had settled. When I had walked through before the wedding, I told Owen not to remove the soffit until somebody confirmed what ran through it. I typed, remember the soffit. Before I sent it, I deleted it. At 8 the next morning, I loaded the cedar bench into my truck and drove to the community workshop on East Street. Walt Simons, who had worked beside me at the transit shop for 23 years, had been asking me to join their monthly repair day since I retired. You'd like it, he kept saying. You don't know what I like. I know you spent 32 years repairing buses. Nobody likes buses. He had a point. The workshop occupied an old hardware store with scarred floors and pegboard walls. People brought in lamps, chairs, radios, and appliances they wanted to save from the landfill. Walt met me at the loading door, wearing an orange apron with "Fix it before you ditch it" printed across the chest. You came, he said. I said I would. You say a lot of things. Good morning to you, too. He helped me unload the bench. Inside, a dozen volunteers were setting up stations. At the electrical table, Helen Alvarez wrestled a power cord into a plastic bin. I had known Helen for years. She had managed route scheduling while Walt and I kept the buses running, which meant she had spent most of her career explaining why machines did not care about timetables. She was 60, divorced, and wore her silver hair in a braid that reached the back of her collar. She saw me and stopped fighting the cord. Peter Caldwell, she said. I thought you were an office roomer. I've been busy. Walt says you retired. Retirement gets busy. With what? I thought of the arbor, the ramp, the porch swing, and the yellow pages that were currently becoming pulp in my washing machine. Things. Helen looked at Walt. He's gotten more interesting. No, Walt said. He's always answered questions like a hostage. They put me at the furniture station beside a young accountant named Malik, who knew everything about antique finishes and nothing about keeping glue off his hands. Our first customer brought in a dining chair with one short leg. My late husband used to put cardboard under it, she said. We can preserve the cardboard if it has sentimental value, I told her. She laughed and left the chair with us. At 10:30, my phone vibrated. Lila had sent a picture directly to me. The upper cabinets were off the wall. Martin stood on a stepladder, cutting away a strip of plaster. Dust covered his hair and shoulders. Found the mystery, she wrote. The next picture showed a wide sheet metal duct crossing the soffit. I put the phone away. At 11:15, she called. I let it ring twice before answering. Hey, she said, breathless. Are you home? No. Oh. Tools scraped in the background. Where are you? At a repair workshop. You're repairing things? Yes. There was a pause long enough to hear the question she did not ask. We found ductwork in the soffit, she said. I saw. Martin thinks it can be rerouted through the ceiling joists. Don't do that. He hasn't cut it yet. Good. But can it be rerouted? Maybe. Not by cutting it first. She lowered her voice. Could you come look? I watched Malik clamp the repaired chair leg backward. Turn that around, I told him. He looked down. Right. Dad, I'm here. It would take 10 minutes. I don't know what the duct serves. Looking at it won't change that. You know houses. Houses keep secrets from everybody. So, what are we supposed to do? Stop removing plaster around it. Call an HVAC contractor. On a Saturday? Leave a message. We have an electrician coming Monday. Reschedule him, if you need to. She exhaled hard. That costs money. Yes. So does hiring somebody for every single thing you were going to help us do. There it was. I walked toward the loading door, away from the volunteers. I'm not asking you to hire somebody for everything. You're just refusing anything I ask. I'm refusing to take over the kitchen. I didn't say take over. I said look. And after I look, I'll tell you what to do. Then Martin will ask me to show him. Then I'll get my tools because it's faster. And by dinner, I'll be responsible for whatever is inside that wall. That's not fair. It's exactly what would happen. You don't know that. I looked through the open loading door at my truck. I do know that. Her voice chilled. Must be nice. What? Knowing everything before anyone else gets the chance to disappoint you. She hung up. I returned to the furniture station. Malik had corrected the clamp and wiped away the glue. The chair sat level. Family? Helen asked from the next table. What makes you say that? You went outside with your shoulders at your ears. I loosened them. Walt handed me a lamp with a broken wooden base. This needs a new collar. Electrical table is over there. Wooden collar. Helen's closer. Helen bites. Only when scheduled, she said. I worked until 3 without checking my phone. We repaired 8 chairs, 2 lamps, a jewelry box, and a coffee table, whose owner had used the phrase rustic damage to describe what his dog had done. When I finally looked, there were 4 messages. At 12:40, Lila had written, Martin is calling someone. At 1:10, Owen wrote, we stopped. At 1:50, Dana posted in the family thread, poor Martin had to go to Leesburg. Major freezer failure at a restaurant. At 2:16, Lila sent me nothing but a photograph of the kitchen. The upper half of one wall was open. Torn insulation drooped between studs. The duct remained intact. Plaster covered the floor, the countertops, and the cardboard boxes holding their dishes. Martin's red pry bar rested on the windowsill. I put the phone away again. Helen was loading bins into a storage cabinet. Coffee, she said. I'm fine. That wasn't a medical question. Walt joined us, removing his orange apron. Helen's organizing a weekend on Skyline Drive next month. I am not organizing, she said. I'm going. Other people are allowed to appear. She asked you last spring, Walt told me. I had things going on. Helen shut the cabinet. You said your daughter was moving. She was. And the time before that? Dana's washing machine. Helen gave me a level look. You've been divorced from Dana since the first Bush administration. Wrong Bush. That does not improve it. I almost said the duplex would still be unfinished next month. I almost said Lila might need me. Instead, I asked, what weekend? Helen's expression did not change, but Walt smiled. On Sunday morning, Owen came for my shop vacuum. He stood in the driveway wearing yesterday's dust in his hair. I can rent one. Then why are you here? Yours is better. That's true. I rolled it out of the garage and set a package of fresh filters on top. Lila, know you came? I asked. She told me not to ask you. That isn't an answer. No. I waited. He rubbed the back of his neck. She's mad at you, mad at Martin, and mostly mad that she can't tell which one she's allowed to be mad at. She can be mad at both. I'll put that on a pillow. I showed him how to knock the plaster dust from the hose before it hardened. Martin coming back? I asked. He said today. Then the restaurant needed a replacement controller, and now he has to be in Richmond tomorrow. That sounds possible. It probably is. Owen lifted the hose. That's what makes it hard to complain. Yes, I thought. Martin rarely invented emergencies. He simply arranged his promises as though emergencies only happened to other people. I'm not happy he had to leave, I said. I know. Lila thinks I am. She thinks you're waiting for him to prove you right. I don't need him to prove anything. Owen set the hose down. Can I say something you'll hate? You seem prepared. You liked being the one everybody called. I did not. You complained about it. That's different. Is it? I looked at him. He held up both hands. I'm not saying they treated you well. They didn't. But being useful gave you a place nobody could argue with. The garage felt smaller. He continued before I could stop him. Now you're not helping, but you're still standing close enough to see whether they fail without you. That's why you came? To borrow my vacuum and analyze me? The vacuum was Lila's idea. I stared at him until he smiled. Then I smiled too, against my will. Bring it back clean, I said. They hired an HVAC company on Monday. The duct could be rerouted, but not until part of the ceiling was opened. The electrician moved them to the end of his schedule. Their 6-week estimate became 9. Martin offered to pay for the added work. Lila refused, which caused an argument between her and Dana, because Dana thought refusing help was prideful. Lila pointed out that Dana had defended me for refusing to help by calling it punishment. Dana said that was completely different and could not explain how. I heard all of this from Beverly, who called ostensibly to ask whether I wanted her extra tomatoes. "You enjoy this too much," I told her. "I enjoy accuracy. Those aren't the same. They are in Delaware." On Wednesday, Owen invited me to eat dinner at the duplex. As a guest, he added, "I brought pizza." The kitchen was unusable, so we sat in the front room on folding chairs with paper plates balanced on our knees. Bare bulbs hung from the ceiling. Boxes formed narrow paths between the walls. Lila wore an old sweatshirt and had Barbie plaster dust along one eyebrow. Nobody mentioned the wedding. Nobody asked me to inspect anything. Halfway through dinner, the folding chair beneath Lila began to wobble. She shifted her weight, looked down at the loose brace, then looked at me. I kept eating. After a moment, she laughed. It sounded close to crying. "I don't know how to be around you if nothing needs fixing," she said. I set my slice on the plate. Neither do I. For once, neither of us rushed to make that easier. Owen cleared his throat and lifted the pizza box. "Anybody want the last piece?" Lila and I both said no. He took it. Good talk. The folding chair gave another small click beneath Lila. She braced her feet and held still. "Workshop going well?" Owen asked me. "It was one Saturday. You're going back?" It was not a question. I looked at him. He shrugged. "You lit up when you explained why your vacuum is better than a rental. I assume there are people there who enjoy that. There are people there who bring in lamps they should throw away. So, you're people." Lila smiled at her plate. "I'm going back," I said. "When?" she asked. 2 weeks. I'm away next weekend." Her eyes lifted. "Away where?" "Skyline Drive." "With who?" "Friends from the transit shop." The answer was accurate enough, but it left out Helen. I did not know why I left her out. Helen and I were not dating. We had eaten lunch in the same cafeteria for years and once shared a cab from a retirement banquet. Nothing in that history required concealment. Lila pushed a pepperoni around her plate. "You hate group trips. I hate group tours. They give you 7 minutes to appreciate a waterfall. Is this a hiking thing? Some hiking. Your knee hurts. My knee complains. That's different." She looked as though she might ask when I had made the plan, then remembered she did not have a claim on the weekend. Owen folded the empty pizza box. "I hope it's good." "Thank you." Lila stood carefully. The loose chair brace shifted, and she caught the back before it folded. "Don't," she said when I moved. I stopped. She carried the chair to the wall and leaned it there. A screwdriver and a package of assorted bolts sat on a nearby box. She looked at them, then at me. "I can fix a chair," she said. I know. She did not know. Not that chair anyway. The rivet had sheared. A bolt would work temporarily, but the brace would never fold correctly again. I kept that information to myself. We moved into the kitchen doorway, where the open ceiling revealed pipes, ductwork, and old gray lumber. I did not look up for more than a second. Lila noticed. "You can look," she said. "I can see it from here. You're acting like the house is naked. Houses usually are once you remove their clothes." Owen carried the pizza box toward the trash, laughing. On the mantel in the front room sat the walnut box. Lila had removed the cream ribbon from the wedding and placed the 2-letter envelopes inside. The little drawer was open half an inch. "I like where you put it," I said. She followed my eyes. I wanted it somewhere people could see it. The words sat between us with more weight than she intended. At the door, she hugged me properly. It lasted only a second, but neither of us missed. "Thanks for coming," she said. "Thanks for not giving me a drill." I considered it, I know. As I walked to my truck, I heard the loose folding chair scrape across the floor behind me. At home, I checked my phone and found a message from Dana. Did she apologize? I answered. "We had pizza. 3 dots appeared." "That's not an answer. It's the one I have." Dana called instead. "She's miserable," she said. She didn't look miserable. She cries to me. She laughs with me. You always were able to ignore whatever didn't happen directly in front of you. I sat on the edge of my bed and untied my shoes. What would you like me to do? Tell her you forgive her. She hasn't apologized. She's trying. She served me pepperoni. For Lila, that is trying. I smiled because it was true. Dana continued. You know she thought the seating wouldn't matter to you. She asked me at the wedding. She knew then. By then it was done. By her. You keep saying that like you want to hear her admit she deliberately hurt you. I want her to stop describing it as weather. Dana sighed. You were always so good at waiting people out. I'm not waiting, aren't you? I looked at the travel bag I had taken down from the closet. It was still collapsed on the floor. No, I said. I'm going away next weekend. The trip began with Walt arriving at my house 25 minutes early and honking from the driveway as though I had overslept. There were 5 of us in the rented van: Walt, Helen, Malik from the workshop, Walt's sister Renee, and me. This was a different Renee from the woman who had officiated Lila's wedding. I considered asking if all competent women over 50 were secretly named Renee, but I kept it to myself. Helen drove the first stretch. She wore sunglasses with red frames and refused to let Walt control the music after he played 3 consecutive songs by the Doobie Brothers. It's period appropriate, he complained. So is asbestos, she said. I sat in the passenger seat with a paper map, because Helen said she liked a navigator who did not recalculate in a disappointed voice. We stopped at an overlook where the mountains layered into blue distance. The air smelled like leaves and cold stone. Nobody asked me to repair anything. That sensation was so unfamiliar, it took an hour to become pleasant. We walked a trail that descended farther than Walt had promised. My knee did complain. Helen heard me grunt while stepping over a root and offered a hiking pole without comment. I'm fine, I said. That's not what the pole is for. What is it for? Taking weight off your bad knee while preserving your fragile masculinity. I took the pole. At the bottom, water spilled over a ledge into a narrow pool. Malik climbed onto a rock for a picture and nearly slid in. Walt laughed so hard he had to sit down. Helen stood beside me, looking at the water. You check your phone a lot, she said. Do I? Yes. There's not much signal. That usually reduces the usefulness. I put it in my pocket. She adjusted the strap on her backpack. Everything okay with Lila? I looked at her. How do you know it's Lila? Dana's washing machine doesn't text. I laughed. Helen did not ask what had happened. She only said, You're allowed to enjoy a weekend before every problem in Maryland is solved. Who approved that? Committee. Unanimous? I had to threaten Walt. That evening, the 5 of us ate at a restaurant attached to a motel with wooden bears on every flat surface. My phone gained signal midway through dinner. There were no missed calls from Lila. The absence disappointed me, which was proof that Owen had been right about more than the vacuum. There was one message in the family thread. Dana had posted a picture of Martin at the duplex, holding the repaired folding chair. Martin saves the day, she wrote. I enlarged the picture. He had installed the bolt through the brace exactly where I would have installed it. The chair would not fold, but it would hold. Lila had reacted to the photograph with a heart. I turned my phone over. Helen watched me, but said nothing. On Sunday, we drove home through rain. Helen fell asleep against the window with her red sunglasses still on. Walt snored in the back. I navigated using the map, though the highway signs made it unnecessary. At my house, Helen helped carry my bag to the porch. Was it terrible? She asked. Almost unbearable. Good. We're going again in spring. You plan 6 months ahead? Some people have lives. She hugged me before I could decide whether to offer my hand. Her cheek was cold from the rain. When I went inside, the house did not feel lonely. It felt quiet. There was a difference, though. I could not have explained it. Martin called the next afternoon. I owe you a beer, he said. You don't. Then coffee. For what? For sitting down with me. We met at a diner near the highway. Martin was already in a booth, wearing a gray suit and looking less comfortable without Dana beside him. He pushed a mug toward the empty place. I ordered you black. Everybody knows that now. He smiled. Lila tells people. I sat. For a minute, we stirred coffee neither of us had put anything in. Martin began with the sentence men use when they want to apologize without surrendering any defensible ground. I'm sorry things got so out of hand. What things? He leaned back. You're going to make me say every word, aren't you? I don't know which words you brought. The wedding, the seat, the toast. I waited. He rubbed one thumb over the other. His hands were soft for a man who liked being photographed with tools, but there was a healing cut across his knuckle from the duplex. The toast wasn't aimed at you, he said. You described yourself as the dependable father while I was sitting by the kitchen. I wrote that toast before the seating changed. Then it was always aimed at me. No, it was about my relationship with her. You said you gave her the home where she learned dependable love. I did. So did I. Not that home. There it was. Not cruel. Not shouted. Worse because he believed it. A waitress filled our mugs. Martin thanked her and waited until she left. I spent years being reminded I wasn't her real father, he said. Every medical form, every ceremony, every time somebody asked who I was. I showed up anyway. I never asked you not to. You didn't have to. You'd walk into a room and become the official version just because you shared blood. I was her father before you arrived, and I was there after I arrived. Those years count? Yes, I said. They do. He looked surprised. I'm not trying to take them from you, I continued. But you sat in my seat because, for once, you wanted nobody to question which one of us counted more. His jaw shifted. Maybe, he said. It was the closest thing to honesty he had offered. Did you know my toast was cut? Dana said there were too many speeches. Did Lila say that? She agreed. And you didn't interfere. He looked down at his coffee. No. The diner's front door opened, letting in a burst of traffic noise. Martin said, You think you're different because you disappear quietly. But Peter, you've been judging everybody from the edge of the room for years. You do things nobody asked for, then act wounded when we don't understand the price. I felt the answer rise. I kept it down. He was not entirely wrong. I didn't know there was a price, I said. There's always a price. Yours is just silence. He stood, left money beneath his mug, and buttoned his jacket. Lila thinks every time she calls, she'll hear you putting down a wrench and deciding whether she deserves you. That isn't what I want. Then figure out what you do want. He walked out before I could tell him he had ordered the coffee but not paid enough for mine. The waitress picked up Martin's money and counted it. He's 70 cents short, she said. That sounds like him. She looked toward the door. Friend of yours? Relative by circumstance. That's most relatives. I added $1 and left before she could bring change. Martin's words followed me home. Not the ones about the seat. I knew what to do with those. It was the rest of it that would not settle. You do things nobody asked for, then act wounded when we don't understand the price. The next morning, I found myself tightening the loose handle on the community workshop's back door before anyone arrived. I had already removed 2 screws when I stopped. Walt came in carrying a box of extension cords. What are you doing? Nothing. You've got a screwdriver. The handle's loose. Building manager knows. He hasn't fixed it, not our building. I put the screws back. Walt watched me. That hurt, didn't it? More than it should have. At the furniture station, Malik was refinishing a side table. He had chosen a stain too dark for the wood, but he was happy with it. I opened my mouth, looked at his face, and closed it again. Helen noticed from across the room. You ill? She asked. I'm practicing restraint. Is that safe without supervision? By lunch, I had allowed a crooked drawer pull to remain crooked because its owner liked it. I let Malik attach felt pads slightly off-center. When a man brought in a broken bar stool and asked whether we could make it swivel again, I told him no, instead of spending the afternoon proving we could. None of those decisions improved my mood. Helen sat beside me on the loading dock with a paper cup of soup. You look like you've lost an argument with yourself, she said. Martin thinks I use helpfulness to control people. Who's Martin? Dana's husband, the polo shirt. You've met him? Retirement party. He tried to explain bus procurement to me. That sounds like Martin. She blew across her soup. Is he right? Partly? Annoying? Yes. Does that mean everybody else was right to treat you badly? No. Then don't turn one useful criticism into a full confession. I looked at her. She shrugged. I was married to a man who could identify one true thing I'd done wrong and build a summer home on it. What did you do? Loaded the dishwasher like a raccoon. Do raccoons load dishwashers? Exactly. Impossible standard. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and put it away. What are you doing for Thanksgiving? She asked. Dana usually has it. You going, I assume? Good. You? My brother is visiting his wife's family in Texas. I was invited, but his wife's mother believes pepper is an exotic spice. Dangerous. I'm considering frozen pizza. The invitation from Dana arrived that evening in the family thread. Thanksgiving at our house, 3 o'clock. This year we are keeping things peaceful and positive. No wedding discussion, no blame, no rehashing old hurts. Fresh start. Please respond with what you're bringing. Beverly answered, wine. Dana replied, a side dish, Bev. Beverly wrote, wine goes beside food. Owen volunteered mashed potatoes. Martin claimed the turkey. Lila posted a thumbs up and nothing else. I read Dana's message several times. No wedding discussion sounded reasonable. Nobody wanted to spend Thanksgiving pulling apart the reception. But no blame and no old hurts meant something else. It meant I could come as long as I agreed that my reaction was the only remaining problem. I wrote to Dana privately. Thank you for inviting me. I won't be there. She called before I could set down the phone. What now? Hello, Dana? What part offended you? Peace or positivity? The part where I have to agree we've had a fresh start. You can't sit through one meal without discussing the wedding. I've sat through plenty. That's not an answer. It's becoming a family tradition. She made an irritated sound. I'm trying to get everyone in the same room. Then invite everyone. Don't issue terms. The terms are because of you. Exactly. So you'd rather be alone? I didn't say I'd be alone. That was true, though I had no plans yet. Of course, she said. You have your workshop people now. The speed with which she made friends sound like an accusation impressed me. Happy Thanksgiving, Dana. Peter. I ended the call, then I called Helen. Her frozen pizza became a dinner for 6. Walt and Renee had planned to eat at a restaurant because Walt refused to spend another holiday listening to his sister criticize his turkey. Malik's parents were traveling. I invited an old neighbor named Curtis, who had recently separated from his wife and was living in a furnished apartment with one saucepan. I can cook, he told me, then bring the saucepan. Lila called the following evening. Mom says you're boycotting Thanksgiving. I declined an invitation. She thinks you're making a statement. Your mother thinks folding laundry is a statement. This isn't about her. No? Lila was quiet. I sat at my kitchen table with a grocery list in front of me. Helen had assigned herself stuffing. Walt wanted canned cranberry sauce because the ridges comforted him. Renee was bringing sweet potatoes. I had written turkey, rolls, green beans, butter, pie, then added a second pie because Curtis had sounded hungry. Do you want me to ask her to remove the rules? Lila asked. No, then what do you want? I want you not to negotiate between me and your mother. That's what you did my whole life. Yes. The word stopped her. I continued. And it didn't help you. It taught you that whenever one person was upset, somebody else had to disappear. Is that what you think you're doing now? No, I'm having Thanksgiving at my house. With who? Friends, your workshop friends? Some of them. And Helen, there it was. Yes. Owen saw a picture from the trip. All 5 of us were in it. I didn't say anything. You said her name. Lila exhaled. I just didn't know you were seeing someone. I'm not seeing anyone. Does she know that? I laughed. You sound like your mother. Please don't say that. Sorry. She was quiet again, softer this time. I wanted one normal holiday, she said. We've had normal holidays. You know what I mean. I did. She wanted the familiar seating, Martin carving, Dana directing, me bringing whatever everyone forgot and refusing seconds until somebody insisted. She wanted proof that the wedding had not changed the structure beneath her. I'm not ready for that version, I said. Will you ever be? I don't know. Her voice tightened. You keep saying that like it's honest, but it feels like a threat. It isn't. Then give me something. I looked at my grocery list. I love you, I said. That's not enough. No, I said. Sometimes it isn't. She ended the call. Thanksgiving morning, my turkey was still frozen near the cavity. Walt arrived with a heat gun. No, I said. It has settings. No. Helen came 20 minutes later, took one look at the bird, and filled the sink with cold water. This is why women live longer, she said. Because they understand poultry. Because they stop men from using garage tools in kitchens. By 3, my house smelled like butter, sage, and the part of the turkey that had dripped onto the oven floor. Curtis brought a green bean casserole in his saucepan. Malik arrived with 2 pies from a bakery and admitted he had not made them. Nobody cared. We ate at the dining table I usually use for unopened mail. I had extended it with the leaf and borrowed 2 chairs from Walt. Helen sat beside me, not because I had planned it, but because she was carrying stuffing when everyone chose seats. The meal was loud and uneven. Walt's turkey was better than mine, according to Walt, though he had contributed nothing to it. Renee told the story of his first attempt at frying one, and embellished the height of the flames every time he interrupted. Nobody asked why I was not with my daughter. After dinner, we moved to the living room with pie. Helen found the printed photograph of Lila and me in the drawer when she was looking for coasters. "You hid your coasters under sandpaper?" she asked. "Wrong drawer." She lifted the photograph. "This is beautiful." I took it from her more quickly than I intended. "That's Lila," I said. I guessed. I set it on the bookshelf, face up. At 7, someone knocked. I expected Beverly. She had threatened to defect after dessert if Dana served pumpkin mousse again. When I opened the door, Lila stood on the porch holding a foil-covered plate. She wore the green sweater I had given her 2 Christmases earlier. Her hair smelled faintly of smoke from Dana's fireplace. Behind me, Walt laughed loud enough to shake the windows. Helen was at the sink arguing with Curtis about whether gravy belonged in plastic containers. Lila looked past my shoulder. "You have people here. I told you I was having dinner. I thought you meant 2 people. 6. "Oh," she held out the plate. "Mom made too much. Your mother always makes too much, I know." Neither of us took the plate. "You thought I'd be alone," I said. Her eyes moved to mine. "I didn't want you to be. That isn't the same." "No." She glanced inside again. Her gaze stopped on Helen, who had turned from the sink. I stepped back. "Come in. I can't stay. Then come in for 5 minutes." She hesitated, still holding the plate like an excuse. From the living room, Renee called, "Peter, are you making guests stand outside? We discussed your social development." Lila smiled despite herself. She crossed the threshold. I introduced her to everyone. Helen wiped her hands and said, "I've heard almost nothing about you, which I understand is how your father protects the people he loves." I could not tell if it was a compliment. Lila could not either. Walt found her a clean plate. Curtis moved the saucepan off a chair. Nobody asked why she had arrived after dark carrying leftovers. She sat beneath the bookshelf. The photograph of us lay face up above her shoulder. Lila noticed it. For the first time since she entered, she looked as though she believed she had come to the right house. Helen handed Lila a slice of pecan pie before asking whether she wanted one. "Thank you," Lila said. "It's not homemade, even better." Malik pointed at the bakery box. "That's what I said." "You said you baked them," Walt told him. "I said I brought them." People heard what they needed. Lila looked at me over the edge of her plate. Nobody else noticed. She stayed longer than 5 minutes. Renee made room on the couch and asked about the duplex. Curtis explained how his furnished apartment had a framed photograph of a lighthouse he had never visited. Walt told Lila that I had repaired an entire coffee table that afternoon, which was not true. I had repaired one corner while Malik did the finish. "Your father's learning teamwork," Helen said. "He's always been good at teamwork," Lila replied, "as long as the team does what he says." The room laughed. I did too, though the line had a small hook in it. Lila ate half the pie and carried her plate to the kitchen. I followed with 2 coffee cups. "You don't have to clean," I said. "I know." She opened the dishwasher. Helen had loaded it. The dinner plates faced different directions. Bowls were on the bottom rack. A wooden spoon lay across the top like a fallen tree. Lila stared. "Don't," I said. "You see it too. Walk away. Who raised you people?" I laughed, and this time the sound came easily. She moved the wooden spoon to the counter, then stopped herself from reorganizing anything else. "Mom's dinner was awful," she said quietly. "Food? No. Food was good. Martin's turkey? Dry. I knew it. That made you too happy." "A little." She leaned against the counter. From the living room came the sound of Walt insisting he could tell canned cranberry sauce brands apart by their ridges. "Everyone acted normal," she said. "Aggressively normal. Mom asked Beverly about Delaware 3 times. Your mother knows Beverly doesn't go there. That's why she asked." I rinsed a cup. "Did something happen?" "No. That was the problem. Nobody mentioned you. Your chair wasn't there." I declined. "I know. But you expected a chair?" "Yes." I shut off the water. "Mom made the rules because she thought you'd cause trouble," Lila said. "Then she spent the whole meal waiting for trouble that couldn't happen, because you weren't there. That sounds tiring." It was. She looked toward the living room, where Helen had taken my place in an argument about pie crust. "Is she why you didn't come?" "No." "Would you tell me if she was?" "Yes." "You didn't tell me about the trip. I didn't know I needed permission. I didn't say permission." What did you mean? Her expression tightened. You were always available before. The honest answer was that I had made sure of it. I had postponed fishing trips, dinners, one disastrous attempt at a pottery class, and the Skyline weekend twice. I wanted credit for none of that, yet I felt all of it line up behind my teeth. I had plans, I said. You never used to. That wasn't healthy. For who? For me. She crossed her arms. See? This is what I mean. You make a decision by yourself, then explain it like we all agreed it was necessary. That sounds familiar. Can we not talk in little courtroom sentences? We're in a kitchen. You know what I mean? I did. I dried the cup and put it down. The trip was good, I said. Helen invited me months ago. I kept saying no because something always came up. This time I said yes. What always came up? I looked at her. She understood before I answered. Me, sometimes. What other times? Your mother's washing machine. Lila gave a short laugh, but her eyes had gone wet. Why didn't you tell me? What would I have said? Sorry, I can't help you move because I'd rather walk through the mountains. Yes. You would have thought I didn't care. Now I find out you cared and resented it. I didn't resent helping you. You resent that I didn't keep track. The room seemed to tilt by half a degree. Martin had called it a price. Lila called it a record. Both had seen something I preferred to describe as devotion. That's fair, I said. She blinked. It isn't all of it, I continued, but it's fair. Lila wiped quickly beneath one eye. Owen said you admitted things to him. I didn't realize he was issuing a report. He didn't. We had a fight. About me, about what I told him at the wedding. I waited. She glanced toward the living room, then lowered her voice. I told him the seating change was handled. He told me. I was going to tell you before guests went in. Then everything was late, and Mom couldn't find her earring, and the ramp was finished before 9:30. I know. I'm saying there were things happening. There are always things happening. She pressed her lips together. Owen asked why I didn't tell him the truth, she said. I thought you wouldn't care where you sat. That isn't the truth either. It was what I told myself. Behind us, the refrigerator started humming. The foil-covered plate she had brought sat unopened on the counter. What about the toast? I asked. She looked down. There it was. The subject beneath every other subject. Mom thought there were too many speeches, she said. Owen's family only had Russell speaking. She said if you and Martin both spoke, it would turn into a comparison. So, you picked Martin. He's not good at being left out. And I am. That's not what I meant. It's what happened. She wrapped her arms more tightly around herself. I thought you'd understand. What? That it wasn't about loving him more. What was it about? Keeping the day from becoming something everyone had feelings about. I looked at my daughter, standing in my kitchen after leaving one Thanksgiving because my absence had become too loud. Everybody already had feelings, I said. You just assigned mine to later. She looked as though I had slapped the counter between us. Owen said your toast was about me being brave. Part of it. What else? It doesn't matter now. It matters to me. It belonged in that room, at that time. You could tell me. I could. Then you'd cry, I'd comfort you, and we'd make the toast another thing I gave you. Her mouth opened, then closed. That was crueler than I intended. Accurate, maybe, but cruelty often arrives wearing accuracy as a tie. I'm sorry, I said. For which part? The way I said it. Not the part where you think I only came here so you'd make me feel better. I don't know why you came. I didn't want you to be alone. I wasn't. I see that. She looked toward Helen again. Lila? What? Nobody in that room replaces you. She laughed without humor. Now you know what it feels like to have to say that. Before I could answer, Walt walked into the kitchen carrying 3 plates. Your friend Curtis is trying to put gravy in a sandwich bag, he said. That's his choice. It's a structural issue. Lila took the plates from him. I'll find a container. The conversation ended there. When she left, I walked her to the porch. She handed me the foil-covered plate. What is it? Turkey, stuffing, potatoes? Your mother sent enough for 6. I made the plate. That distinction mattered to her. Thank you. She tucked her hands into her sweater sleeves. I didn't think you'd forgive me because you're weak, she said. I thought you'd forgive me because you always do. That may be worse. I know. She stepped down from the porch. Happy Thanksgiving, Dad. Happy Thanksgiving, sweetheart. After everyone left, I found the wedding photograph back inside the drawer. Helen must have put it there while cleaning. I took it out and set it upright on the bookshelf. At the next repair day, Lila appeared carrying the folding chair. She wore jeans, work boots, and a serious expression. The bolt Martin had installed gleamed through the brace. "It doesn't fold," she said. "I know." "You knew from the picture?" "Yes. Did you enjoy that?" "No. Not even a little?" "A little." She smiled. Malik brought over an intake tag and a marker. "What's wrong with it?" Lila wrote, "Refuses to bend." He read it. "Chair or owner, both." Helen looked up from a toaster. "You must be Lila. We met at Thanksgiving. I was giving you a second chance at an introduction," Lila laughed. Then she looked at me. "Will you show me how to fix this?" I almost reached for the drill. Instead, I set it on the table between us. "We'll do it together." The bolt had been tightened hard enough to crush the hollow brace. We drilled it out, removed the damaged section, and found a replacement hinge in a bin of salvage parts. Lila struggled to keep the drill straight. Twice I put my hand out. Twice I stopped before touching hers. "You can correct me," she said. "I'm trying not to take over. There's an area between those things. I'm new to it." "So am I." When the new rivet seated, she opened and closed the chair several times. Her satisfaction was out of proportion to the job. I recognized that feeling. She stayed for the rest of the morning. Helen taught her how to replace a lamp switch. Malik got stain on her sleeve. Walt told her 3 stories about me from the transit shop, only one of which was true. Before leaving, she carried the chair to my truck, then remembered it belonged at her house. "The kitchen should be finished after New Year's," she said. "We want to have everybody over." "That'll be nice." "We've been looking at dining tables." I waited. She rubbed a thumb over the repaired hinge. "They're expensive. Good ones are. And none of them fit the room exactly. Rooms rarely cooperate." She looked as if she wanted to ask something. Then she lifted the chair into Owen's car by herself. "I'll see you," she said. I watched her drive away, knowing the unfinished question had not disappeared. It had only learned to wait. The question followed her into December. Lila sent me pictures of tables without asking me to build one. Rectangular oak, round ash, a steel-framed thing that looked like it belonged in an airport. I responded as if she were asking only for opinions. "Too wide. That top will warp." "Looks like a conference room," she replied. "You have never been in a conference room that nice." We started meeting for breakfast every other Saturday at a diner between our houses. The first time, she arrived with no list, no measurements, and no object in need of repair. She put both hands on the table where I could see them. "I brought nothing," she said. "I'm proud of you. I almost brought the blender." "What's wrong with it? Nice try." We talked about Owen's habit of leaving cabinet doors open, the workshop, and a woman at Lila's office who microwaved fish. We did not talk about the wedding. We also did not pretend it had vanished. It sat with us like an empty third cup. At the second breakfast, Lila asked about Helen. "She's fine," I said. "That's all. What would you like?" "A detail. She hates raisins. That's useful." "She keeps a pair of bolt cutters in her trunk." Lila leaned forward. "Why?" "I don't know. I'm afraid to ask." She smiled into her coffee. "Are you dating? We've had dinner twice." "That sounds like dating." "Once was with Walt." "That does not sound like dating. I'm glad we cleared this up." She stirred her coffee, though. She drank it black, like me. "I'm not trying to be weird about her," she said. "You're succeeding unevenly. I just didn't know there was room for someone." "There wasn't. I made some." She absorbed that without making it about herself. I noticed. Christmas at Dana's was awkward, but not disastrous. There were no ground rules in the invitation, so I went. Martin gave me a set of drill bits in a molded case. They were expensive and not the brand I used. "I kept the receipt," he said. "Good. That bad?" "They're fine. Your face says they're made of cheese. My face has opinions." He laughed, and some of the stiffness left his shoulders. I gave him a book about restoring old houses. It was not meant as commentary, though Beverly examined the cover and said, "Subtle." Martin heard her. "Peter thinks I need training," he said. "I think everybody needs training, even you, especially me." He looked at me for a second, then nodded. We did not discuss the diner. We did not apologize. We stood in Dana's living room, holding gifts that missed their targets by a few inches, and accepted the effort anyway. Lila gave me a frame for the wedding photograph. She had ordered a copy from Tasha rather than asking how I got mine. In this version, I was looking at her, but she was looking at the camera. I like the other one better, she said. You've seen it? Helen showed me at Thanksgiving. I thought she put it away. She did. I set the frame on my bookshelf beside the first print. 2 versions of the same moment. In one, my daughter saw me. In the other, everyone could see my daughter. The kitchen was finished in the second week of January. The cabinets were painted a deep green Lila had rejected 3 times before choosing. The yellow counters were gone. The duct ran through a squared section of ceiling that Owen called the monument to our ignorance. They invited Dana, Martin, Beverly, and me for dinner. The dining room still had no table, so we ate from paper plates around a borrowed folding table. The repaired chair sat at one end. Martin had done more work after his travel eased. He installed cabinet hardware and helped Owen mount the range hood. One drawer sat slightly crooked, but I did not look at it long enough for anyone to catch me. After dinner, Dana and Beverly went upstairs to see paint colors. Martin followed Owen into the basement to discuss a noise from the furnace. Nobody asked me to listen to it. Lila began clearing plates. Leave them, I said. They're paper. Then they've trained their whole lives for this. She laughed and dropped them in the trash. The room was narrow, with a bay window at one end and an empty brass fixture centered over the space where a table should go. Blue painter's tape marked different lengths on the floor. Lila stood over the longest strip. This is 7 feet. That's too long. You said 6 looked small. I said 6 would seat 6. We want 8. Then you need leaves. I hate leaves. Leaves haven't done anything to you. They're never level. There's always a crack and somebody's glass tips. That's bad workmanship. Exactly. She walked to a box near the wall and pulled out a roll of paper. I knew before she opened it. She had drawn a table, simple trestle base, walnut top, extension slides concealed underneath. The dimensions were written in the neat block letters I taught her when she first started labeling storage bins in her apartment. I made a few versions, she said. The page beneath held another drawing, then another. You've thought about this, obviously. It would be heavy. We're not moving again. Everybody says that in the first house. She spread the drawings across the folding table. I'd pay for the lumber, she said, and your time. No. Her hands stopped. You haven't heard the question. Yes, I have. I want you to build it. I know. She lifted the top drawing and aligned it with the table edge. I thought we could do some of it together. Like the chair, but bigger. The chair took an hour. So, a table like this takes weeks. We don't need it fast. No. She looked at me fully then. Because you don't want to? Because I don't think it's a good idea. Why? I glanced toward the basement door. Owen and Martin's voices drifted up through the floor. Can we not do this while everybody's here? When should we do it? Breakfast is apparently reserved for raisins and people's microwaved fish. That's not fair. Neither is letting me draw 6 tables when you knew the answer. I didn't ask you to draw them. She laughed once. There it is. What? The part where anything you didn't specifically request doesn't count. I looked at the drawings. She had shaded the walnut grain with the side of a pencil. You're trying to repair us with a project, I said. I'm trying to do something with you. Then have breakfast with me. We have breakfast. Keep doing that. For how long? I don't know. Of course you don't. She rolled the paper too tightly, creasing one corner. Every time I think we're better, she said, you move the line. I haven't moved anything. You said you wanted me to stop asking you only when I needed something. I did. You said you wanted a relationship that wasn't about you fixing things. I came to your workshop and fixed my own chair. Now I asked to make something together, and suddenly that's wrong too, because it's a dining table. What does that mean? It means it'll sit in the middle of your house for the next 30 years, telling everybody we're fine. Maybe I want something you made in the middle of my house. You have the box. Her face changed. The box from my wedding. Yes. The wedding you can't discuss without turning every object into evidence. I lowered my voice. I'm not doing this here. You're already doing it. She crossed the room and pushed the swinging door to the kitchen shut. It did almost nothing to block the voices below. You want me to apologize, she said. I want you to understand what you're apologizing for. I moved your seat. You erased me. Oh, come on. You asked me to build things, solve problems, write a toast, and stand in photographs. Then you moved me when acknowledging me became inconvenient. I didn't erase you. You were there, at table 7. It was a chair. Then why did Martin need it so badly? She stared at me. Because he always feels like second place with you, she said. That is not my job to fix. It was my wedding. And you fixed it by making me second place. He helped raise me? I know. He was there for things you weren't. I know. Do you? Her voice shook. Because you keep acting like you drove 90 miles and tightened enough bolts to earn every part of me. The words struck cleanly. I leaned against the folding table. Say the rest, I said. She folded her arms as though the invitation frightened her more than an argument. You weren't easy to talk to, she said. When I was hurt, you solved the thing next to the hurt. When I lost my first job, you replaced the brakes on my car. They needed replacing. I know, they always needed replacing. Something always needed replacing. I looked down at my hands. You never told me you were lonely after the divorce, she continued. You never told me when Mom was being unfair. You just got quiet. Then Martin would talk. He told me what he felt. He asked what I felt. He did that better than I did. You say that now. I should have said it sooner. You should have said anything sooner. The room went still. I thought of every change weekend I had accepted, every insult I swallowed, so Lila would not feel trapped between us. I had called it peace. She had experienced it as distance. I thought keeping conflict away from you was love, I said. Sometimes it was. Her answer surprised me. She wiped at her cheek. Sometimes I was grateful, she said. Mom and Martin could turn everything into a whole emotional event. With you, I could just breathe. And then you'd go home before I figured out what you felt. I nodded. I was afraid if I said what I felt, you'd have to choose. I was already choosing. Not out loud. No. The admission left nothing for me to stand behind. I failed you there, I said. I made you guess. I let your mother's version become the only version because correcting her felt like dragging you into our divorce. And I made usefulness do the work of closeness because it was safer. Lila's face crumpled, but she stayed where she was. Then, why can't you understand the wedding? She asked. Understanding how we got there doesn't make what you did harmless. I never said harmless. You keep saying chair. Because I don't know how to make it as big as it is for you. Start with the toast. She turned away. I continued. You asked me to write it. You watched me carry it in my pocket. Then you let Martin stand in front of the room and say he was the dependable father. He didn't mean it against you. He admitted he wanted the room to know he counted. He does count. I know. But why did proving he counted require proving I didn't? It didn't. You chose it anyway. She faced me again. Mom said if you both spoke, it would look competitive. Martin had already been upset that I walked down the aisle alone. He didn't say anything, but I knew. Mom knew. Everything was getting tense. And me? You weren't tense. I was waiting to give my toast. You were fine. No, Lila. I was quiet. Her breath caught. That is the whole thing, I said. Your mother would argue. Martin would be wounded. I would absorb it. So, you gave them what they wanted and handed me the part nobody wanted to carry. I thought you would understand. You thought I would stay. She looked down. The question had been waiting since the reception, though I had not known its shape until then. If you truly believed I was the father who didn't stay, I asked, why were you so sure I'd sit through that toast? She covered her mouth with one hand. From the basement, Martin laughed at something Owen said. The sound moved through the floorboards and disappeared. Lila lowered her hand. Because you always stay, she whispered. I said nothing. I knew it would hurt you, she continued. Not like this. I couldn't let Mom start crying, and Martin would have spent the whole night pretending he was fine. You were the only person I thought would still love me afterward. You spent the safest person. Her eyes closed. Yes. The word was barely audible. When she opened them, there was no defense left in her face. I gave him your seat because I knew you wouldn't fight me for it, she said. And I cut your toast because I knew you wouldn't ruin my wedding to get it back. She gripped the table drawings until the paper bent. I used the best thing about you against you. The kitchen door opened behind us. Owen looked from Lila to me, then to the crushed drawings in her hands. Everything okay? He asked. No, Lila said. For once, she did not ask either of us to make it otherwise. Owen took one step into the room. Do you want me to stay? He asked Lila. She nodded. He did not look at me as though I had caused her tears. He went to her, put one hand between her shoulder blades, and waited. I rolled the table drawings carefully, smoothing the worst crease with my palm. Lila watched me. "I'm sorry," she said. Owen's hand remained still on her back. "For what?" I asked. She swallowed. "For knowing you would take it." That was an answer. Not the whole one, but an answer. I set the drawings on the folding table. "I'm going home." Panic crossed her face. "Dad, I'm going home tonight. That isn't the same as leaving you." She stared at me, trying to decide whether the distinction could be trusted. "I don't expect you to forgive me now," she said. "Good." The word came out harsher than I meant. Owen's eyes moved to me. I tried again. "I don't know what forgiveness looks like yet." She wiped her face with both hands. "Neither do I." "That's probably where we are." I walked through the kitchen. At the basement stairs, Martin appeared with a flashlight in one hand. "Furnace is fine," he said. Then he saw Lila behind me. "What happened?" "Ask her," I said. I put on my coat. Owen followed me to the front door. "You okay to drive?" he asked. "I'm upset, not drunk." Those were separate questions in my head. "I'm okay." He lowered his voice. "She needed to say it." "I know. You needed to hear it." "I know." "Then why does it feel worse? Because now we both know it was true." He opened the door. Cold air moved through the entry. "Give her tonight," he said. "I was planning to. Don't call Dana. I wasn't planning to do that." "Good. She'll call you." He knew the family. I drove home with the radio off. At one red light, I realized I was gripping the steering wheel hard enough to make my fingers ache. Lila had given me the admission I thought I wanted. She had named the calculation beneath the seat and the toast. I expected the truth to release something. Instead, it widened the wound by proving I had understood it correctly from the beginning. At home, the two wedding photographs stood side by side on the bookshelf. I turned neither one face down. I slept badly. At the workshop the next morning, a woman brought in a rocking chair with a split runner. The repair required more patience than skill. I glued the crack, cut a curved brace, and clamped everything into place. Helen watched me tighten the third clamp. "You're squeezing the glue out," she said. "It needs pressure. It needs some pressure." I loosened the clamp by half a turn. She sat on the edge of my work table. "Dinner last night? How do you know?" "You canceled ours because of it." I said I had family plans. "You canceled dinner because of family plans. Now you're punishing furniture." I set down the wrench. Lila apologized. Helen waited. "That's all you have?" I asked. I assumed there was more. She admitted she knew the wedding would hurt me. She chose me because I was the one least likely to object. And what? What did you do?" I left. Helen's face remained neutral. I told her I was going home, not leaving her. That was good. It didn't feel good. Apologies rarely do when they're real. I thought they were supposed to provide closure. "That's something people say after public scandals." She slid off the table. "Does she want anything from you?" "A dining table." "Of course she does." I said no. "Good. You don't even know why. You don't want to build a table. That's enough." I looked at the clamped rocking chair. She wanted us to build it together. Still enough. I made it about the wedding. It is about the wedding. That's what she said I do. Helen picked up a scrap of wood and examined the grain. "You and Lila have spent years hiding feelings inside objects," she said. "Maybe stop making the objects plead your cases." She tossed the scrap into the bin. At noon, Dana called. I let it ring, finished fitting the brace, and called her back from the loading dock. "What did you say to her?" she demanded. "Hello, Dana. She came to our house at 9 last night and accused me of teaching her to erase you. I didn't tell her to do that, but you told her something. I told her how I felt. You've had months to tell her. You chose last night in her new home, after she asked you for something. She asked me to build a table. I know, it was supposed to be a gesture, then she should have offered me flowers." Dana took a sharp breath. "You humiliated her in front of Owen. Owen came in after, and Martin, also after. You reduced her wedding to some cruel calculation. She did that. I asked her to say it aloud. She was under enormous pressure, from you, from everyone. Weddings are complicated. The chair wasn't. It was one chair. Then why are you still defending it?" Silence. A delivery truck backed toward the loading door, beeping in regular intervals. I moved farther down the dock. Dana said, "I was trying to protect Martin. I know. He has always felt temporary in this family. People treated him like he was visiting someone else's life. He married a divorced woman with a daughter and an involved ex-husband. It was a complicated life. You were involved when it suited you. I closed my eyes. That's not fair, I said. Neither was letting me make every difficult decision and then presenting yourself as the calm one. I dealt with the tears. I dealt with the schedule. I told Lila why you weren't there when work ran late. I worked overtime because you said the support checks weren't enough. And you never told her that, did you? No, because then she would have been angry with me. Better to let her think nobody was at fault. I thought it was better. You thought silence made you good. The same truth again from the person who had benefited most from it. I was wrong, I said. Dana faltered. I continued. I should have spoken. I should have challenged you when you were unfair. I should have asked Lila what she wanted instead of accepting whatever you told me she wanted. That's not but my silence doesn't make your choices honest. Her voice thinned. I never kept her from you. You made me prove I wasn't a problem before I could be her father. You could have fought? Yes. She waited for me to deny it. I should have, I said. But you knew I wouldn't. So did Lila. That's what she's trying to face. Dana began to cry. She did it quietly, which frightened me more than the loud version. She said, Martin and I turned you into a guest, she whispered. You did. You let us. Yes. We stood on opposite ends of 18 years with no clean person between us. I suggested moving the seat, she said. I told her the pictures would make more sense. I know. I told her there should only be one father's toast. I know that too. She made the decision. That's why it hurt. Dana's breathing changed. I thought you wouldn't care about the performance of it, she said. I cared because you treated Martin's part as love and mine as performance. He needed the recognition. So did I. I had never said those words to her. Need sounded too close to weakness when we were married. Dana cried harder. I did not rush to comfort her. I also did not end the call. After a while, she said, What happens now? I don't know. You always say that. Because I'm trying to stop deciding everybody's part for them. She hung up without saying goodbye. Martin came to my house that evening. He stood on the porch holding the drill bits in their molded case. I brought the receipt, he said. Are you returning my Christmas present? I didn't know what else to carry. I let him in. We sat at the kitchen table. He placed the drill bits between us and rested both hands on the case. Lila told us what she told you, he said. I nodded. She said we made her believe your quietness meant you didn't care. That wasn't only you. No. He looked older than he had at the diner. Without the blazer and confident voice, he seemed like a man who had walked into a family hoping to belong and spent 16 years bracing for eviction. I loved being her father, he said. I still do. I know. I hated the word stepfather. I know. No, you don't. You had the title no matter what you did. I could show up 1,000 times and still be introduced with an explanation. You're right. I don't know what that felt like. He rubbed his palm across the drill bit case. When Dana suggested changing the table, I knew it was your seat. I told myself Lila wanted me there. I told myself refusing would embarrass her. Did you want it? Yes. The answer came without delay. I wanted the seat. I wanted the toast. When she called me the dad who stayed, I knew it wasn't fair to you. I waited. I liked it anyway, he said. There was no defense after that, only the thing itself. You did stay, I said. That part was true, not instead of you. No, I let people tell the story that way because it made what I did feel bigger. I looked at him across my kitchen table. I did the same thing in reverse, I said. Every time I fixed something after you promised to, I told myself it proved who really showed up. He gave a small, embarrassed smile. I do promise too much. Yes. You could let one pass. Not tonight. He laughed. Then his eyes filled, and he looked down quickly. I'm sorry, Peter. It was the first apology he had given me that did not begin with how things had become. I accept the apology, I said. That's more than I expected. It isn't the same as everything being fine. I know. He slid the drill bits toward me. Keep these. They're not my brand. I kept the receipt. We sat there until the awkwardness became ordinary. The family group thread remained quiet for 2 days. Then Lila posted a message just after 6 in the morning. I need to correct something I said at the wedding. Martin has been a loving father to me, but calling him the dad who stayed was unfair and false. My dad stayed too. He stayed through the wedding after I moved him away from my table and removed his toast because I believed he would absorb the hurt without making a scene. Please stop describing his leaving afterward as abandonment. He did not ruin my wedding. I hurt him, and I am sorry. Nobody responded for 12 minutes. Then Owen posted a heart. Beverly wrote, "Thank you for saying it." Martin wrote, "This is true." Dana's typing dots appeared and vanished 3 times. Finally, she wrote, "We all made mistakes." Lila answered, "This one was mine." I read the exchange at my kitchen table with the drill bit still sitting in front of me. I typed several responses and erased them. Then I wrote, "Thank you for telling the truth." It was not forgiveness, but it was a place to begin. On Friday afternoon, I sent Lila one line. "Breakfast tomorrow?" She answered before I put the phone down. "Yes." I arrived early and took our usual booth. At 8:10, I began to think she had changed her mind. At 8:15, she came through the door with damp hair and one boot untied. "I overslept," she said. "You could have called. I was afraid you'd think I was canceling. I thought you were dead. Those are our 2 settings." She slid into the booth and tied her boot beneath the table. The waitress brought coffee without asking. Lila wrapped both hands around her mug, but did not drink. "I meant what I wrote," she said. "I know. I didn't post it so you'd forgive me. I know. I almost sent it privately. Then I realized I hurt you in front of everybody, and all the explanations afterward happened in front of everybody. The truth couldn't just happen in your kitchen?" I nodded. "Mom thinks I embarrassed Martin," she continued. "Martin agreed with you. That embarrassed her more." I can imagine. Lila looked into her coffee. "She said I was choosing you over them. What did you say? That correcting a lie isn't choosing sides. That was good. It didn't feel good. No." She cried. "People do that." Lila looked up, recognizing Owen's complaint in my answer. "I stayed," she said. "With your mother?" "Yes." I didn't take it back to make her stop. That was harder for Lila than writing the message. Dana's tears had directed traffic in our family for years. "I'm proud of you," I said. Her chin trembled. "That makes me feel worse. I can take it back." "Don't." The waitress returned with menus. We pretended to read them, though I ordered the same eggs every time, and Lila had been getting French toast since she was old enough to pay for it herself. After we ordered, she said, "I'm not going to ask about the table again." Okay, we bought one. That was fast. Facebook Marketplace. Owen says purchasing furniture from strangers is how people get murdered. He's not entirely wrong. We met in a police station parking lot. Good. It has 2 leaves. I thought you hated leaves. I'm growing. Dangerous habit. She showed me a photograph. The table was old maple, oval at the ends, with scratches across the top and one dark burn near the center. "That's solid," I said. The seller said it belonged to her parents. Everybody says that. She had pictures. Prepared. Lila smiled. "It needs refinishing," she said, then quickly added, "We're hiring someone." I enlarged the photograph. "It doesn't need refinishing. The top is scratched. That's different from damaged. And the burn? Put bread over it." She laughed. "That's your professional opinion?" "Free of charge." Our food came. For several minutes, we ate without trying to solve ourselves. Then Lila put down her fork. "What happens when you forgive someone?" "I don't know. Do you stop being angry?" "Probably not all at once." "Do you trust them again?" "Maybe differently." She tore a corner from her toast. "I keep waiting for you to tell me what I need to do." "That would be easier for me." "Why?" "I like assignments. So do I." "I know." She pushed syrup around her plate. "I don't want you apologizing forever," I said. Her eyes lifted. "I don't want the wedding to become the only honest conversation we ever have. And I don't want you inviting me places because you're afraid not to. Then what do you want?" The question did not frighten me as much this time. "I want you to call when nothing is wrong," I said. "I want to know what you think before your mother tells me. I want you to let me be upset without deciding that means you have to fix me." She nodded slowly. "What do I get?" she asked. It was not sarcastic. "You get the same." Her eyes filled again, but she kept eating. That became our arrangement, though we never called it one. Lila sent me pictures of ordinary things. Owen asleep on the couch with a paint sample stuck to his shirt. The first meal cooked in the finished kitchen. A parking job she claimed proved I had taught her. I sent her a photograph of Walt wearing 2 pairs of safety goggles and a video of Helen discovering raisins in what a restaurant had advertised as bread pudding. Sometimes we missed a breakfast. The first time I canceled because Helen and I were spending a weekend in Annapolis, I told Lila 2 weeks ahead instead of inventing a task I could not escape. Have fun, she wrote. Then, a minute later, she added, I mean it. Helen and I were seeing each other by then, though neither of us announced when that began. She left bolt cutters in my truck one afternoon, and I realized the question of why she owned them had become less important than why she trusted me to keep them. She met Lila for coffee without me. I found out afterward. What did you discuss? I asked Helen. Your flaws. That must have taken a while. We're meeting again Tuesday. Lila refused to tell me anything either. Their secrecy annoyed me in a way I found strangely comforting. At the workshop, I learned to wait until people asked for advice. I did not always succeed. Malik once spent 40 minutes sanding the underside of a shelf nobody would see, and I had to walk outside. I also finished the cedar bench. The slat I had ruined after the wedding could not be repaired, so I replaced all 3 back slats rather than disguise the mismatch. Helen sat on it first and declared the left side more comfortable. The sides are identical, I said. Then your bench lacks character. Walt put it near the loading door, where people sat while waiting for repairs. For months afterward, I saw strangers rest on the part I had once considered ruined. Dana asked me to come by in early spring. I'm not asking you to fix anything, she said over the phone. You sounded offended by that. It's inconvenient. I found her on the porch with the swing cushions stacked on the floor. The squeak from the opposite chain had gotten worse. There's coffee, she said. We sat on the steps instead of the swing. She handed me a mug, black. Martin says you two are getting along, she said. That may be too strong. He said you helped him choose a drill. He was going to buy a cordless system with a discontinued battery. So you saved him. I provided information. Dana smiled into her cup. The porch railing was still solid. A business card for the carpenter was held to the refrigerator inside with a magnet. I had noticed it when she poured the coffee. I called him about the swing, she said. Good. He can't come until Thursday. It'll survive. I know. She stared across the yard. The flower beds had not been cleaned after winter. When we were married, I would have returned with a rake without telling her. I saw the weeds and left them where they were. I owe you an apology, she said. I waited. She took a breath. I made it easy for Lila to believe you chose work over her. I did choose work sometimes. I asked you to. Then I complained that you did. Yes. Her mouth tightened, but she nodded. I liked being the parent who understood feelings, she continued. You were better at practical things, so I made that smaller. I told myself I was explaining you to her, but I was translating you into someone less important. The swing squeaked behind us as the wind moved it. I let you, I said. You keep adding your part whenever someone apologizes. I thought that was fair. It makes it harder to give you anything. I looked at her. That was true too. My habit of accepting blame could be another way of controlling the size of someone else's apology. Okay, I said. Your part was wrong. She laughed, startled. That felt terrible. For me, too. I'm sorry, Peter. Thank you. She wiped her thumb along the rim of her mug. I also should not have pushed Lila to move the seat or cut your toast. I knew it would hurt you. Why did you do it? Because I thought Martin deserved a visible place. So did I. I know that now. You knew then. She closed her eyes briefly. Yes, she said. I knew then. I just thought you needed it less. There it was again. Not a misunderstanding, a ranking of whose pain demanded service. I'm sorry, she repeated. I believe you. She looked at me. Is that forgiveness? It's Tuesday. She laughed, and after a moment, so did I. We drank coffee until it cooled. When I left, the swing still squeaked. By summer, Lila and Owen's house no longer looked recently opened. Pictures hung on the walls. The last moving boxes disappeared from the hall. The maple table sat beneath the brass light, scratches intact. I saw it in photographs before I saw it in person. Lila never asked me to inspect it. She did send a close-up of the burn with a loaf of bread covering it. Professional repair complete, she wrote. Their first anniversary fell on a Saturday. 2 weeks before it, a cream envelope arrived in my mailbox. Inside was a card in Lila's handwriting. Dinner at our house, 7 o'clock. No jobs, no projects, no speeches required. At the bottom, beneath Owen's name, she had added, I hope you'll come because I want you there. I showed it to Helen. That's good, she said. She emphasized no speeches. Maybe she's heard you. What do I bring? Wine. That was Beverly's answer. Beverly is wise. I bought wine. I also made a walnut serving board from a scrap left over from the wedding box. It took one afternoon, and I did not hide any message in it. No engraving, no symbolic drawer, just wood with rounded edges and enough oil to handle food. When I carried it into the duplex, Owen met me in the hall. You brought a project, he said. A board is not a project. It was wood. Then you did things to it. Don't make me take it back. He hugged me and accepted the wine. Voices came from the dining room. Dana and Martin were already there. Beverly sat near the window, inspecting the maple table's scratches as if they contained legal language. Lila came through the kitchen carrying a bowl. She wore a dark green dress and no shoes. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she set down the bowl and hugged me. You came, she said. I said I would, I know. I handed her the walnut board. You made this. It's just a serving board. She turned it over, checking for words that were not there. I love it, she said. On the maple table, 6 place cards stood above 6 plates. Martin's was across from Lila. Mine was beside her. I stopped in the doorway. Lila followed my eyes. Her face did not ask me to make the moment easy. That seat is yours, she said. If you still want it, I wanted it. That was the simplest answer, and the one I trusted least. Lila stood beside the maple table with her hands folded against her dress. Nobody else spoke. Even Beverly understood that silence occasionally belonged to someone else. I touched the back of the chair. Why? I asked. Lila glanced at Martin, then back at me. Not because he failed, she said, and not because you won. Martin lowered his eyes. She continued, he has been a good father to me. You have too. I kept acting like admitting one meant reducing the other. That isn't what I asked. I know. She moved closer, keeping her voice low. This isn't payment for the wedding. It isn't because you made the board or helped with the house or because I expect you to fix something later. I put you beside me because I want you beside me. She looked at the place card. I treated your love like it was the one thing I could spend without ever running out. I don't want to do that anymore. I looked across the table at Martin's card. He cleared his throat. I picked that seat. You did? I asked. Owen gave me options. There were 2, Owen said. Let's not turn it into an act of courage. Martin smiled. I picked that one. Across from Lila. Not removed, not diminished. Just no longer occupying space that had to be taken from me. I pulled out the chair and sat. Beverly released a breath. Thank God, she said. I wore uncomfortable shoes, and I was not standing through another family crisis. You're already sitting, Dana told her. Emotionally, I was standing. Owen brought the wine to the table. I had bought a California Cabernet because the Italian bottle Dana liked did not go with what he was cooking, according to a man at the store who had used the phrase flavor architecture. What are we eating? I asked. Short ribs, Owen said. Architecturally? He stared at me. Helen's changing you? Thank you. That wasn't praise. He poured the wine. The maple table had been extended with both leaves. Lila's plate sat above one seam, and her water glass leaned slightly whenever she rested her wrist near it. I noticed. She noticed me noticing. Don't say it, she warned. Leaves, I know. Beverly pressed one finger against the tabletop. The glass tilted. This thing's a death trap. We met the seller at a police station, Owen said. We knew the risks. The kitchen timer sounded. Lila stood. I've got it, Owen said. I know where the oven is. So do I. You left 2 cabinet doors open. That isn't related. They disappeared into the kitchen together, still arguing. I looked around the table. The scratches had not been sanded away. The burn mark remained near the center, covered by a basket of bread sitting on the walnut board I had brought. The old maple looked right in the room because everything around it was too new. Martin rested his hand near the dark burn. I offered to refinish it, he said. So did a professional, Dana added. Lila said, no. Good, I said. Martin looked at me for approval, caught himself, and smiled. I also brought leveling feet. Where are they? In my car. Leave them there. I was going to. Dana raised her eyebrows. Martin amended. I am now going to. Beverly reached for the bread. Remarkable growth from everyone. Dana looked different in Lila's dining room, less certain of where she belonged. At her own table, she directed every serving spoon. Here, she waited until Lila returned before unfolding her napkin. Her gaze met mine. "The carpenter fixed the swing," she said. "How is it?" "Quiet. I'm sorry to hear that. It's unnerving." She smiled. Lila and Owen carried in the short ribs, mashed potatoes, and a bowl of roasted carrots. Lila set the meat in front of Owen, then changed her mind and placed it in the center. "Somebody else can serve," she said. Beverly immediately handed the spoon to me. "Why me? You're beside it." That was the first task anyone gave me all evening. I accepted. The short ribs were good. Owen pretended not to be pleased when Martin took seconds. Dana complimented the carrots, and Lila told her they came from a bag already peeled. "Why would you admit that?" Dana asked. "Because they're still carrots." Dinner moved without anybody trying to use it as proof. We talked about the duplex, but not who had repaired what. Martin described a restaurant owner who had installed a household freezer in a commercial kitchen, and then become offended when frozen shrimp turned into what Martin called a biological argument. He stopped halfway through and looked at me. "I've told you this." "No, I told it at the wedding. I left before the shrimp." The table went quiet. A year earlier, everyone would have scrambled to cover that sentence. Dana would have changed the subject. Martin would have defended the toast. Lila would have watched me to see if I planned to make the room suffer. This time, Martin nodded. "You missed the best part," he said. "Probably." Then he finished the story. It was not that funny, but I laughed. After dinner, Owen cleared the plates. Dana stood to help, but Lila touched her shoulder. "Stay." Dana sat again. Lila went to the mantel and lifted the walnut box. The oil had darkened over the year, and the brass pins on the little drawer had begun to dull where fingers touched them. She set it on the table between us. "We read the letters this morning," she said. Owen returned from the kitchen carrying dessert plates. Mine was embarrassing. "Yours included a weather prediction," Lila said. "It rained. You predicted emotional sunshine. I was under pressure." She opened the box. The 2 envelopes rested inside, their edges softened from being handled. Then she pulled out the small drawer. It was full. A paint swatch, 2 ticket stubs, a receipt from a takeout restaurant, the bent brass key from their first lock, and a photograph of Owen asleep on the floor beside 3 unopened moving boxes. "You said paper," I told her. "The key is small. People put strange things in drawers, I remember." She touched the receipt. This was dinner, the first night in the house. We didn't have forks. "We owned forks," Owen said. "They were in a box labeled bathroom. You labeled it." I was tired. Lila slid the drawer closed. "We used the box," she said to me. "I can see that. I wanted you to know. The serving board, the box, the table. For years I had made objects carry what I could not say. Now the box held the ordinary evidence of a marriage happening one inconvenient day at a time. It did not need to represent me at all. "That's what it's for," I said. Owen brought out a small chocolate cake with a single candle in the center. "Why 1 candle?" Dana asked. "1 year," he said. "You'll need a larger cake eventually," Beverly told him. "We'll adjust." Lila lit the candle. She and Owen blew it out together, though Martin tried to photograph them and caught only smoke. We ate cake. It was better than the wedding cake and moister than Beverly had claimed hers was. When the plates were empty, Lila touched her wine glass. "I said no speech is required," she began. Beverly groaned. "You've said more today than you did at the wedding," Dana told her. "That was out of respect." "For whom?" "I'm still deciding." Lila waited until they quieted. "I'm not giving a speech," she said. "I just want to say thank you for coming." She looked at Dana and Martin first. This year was harder than it needed to be. Some of that was the house. A lot of it was me. I spent a long time believing love was something you measured by who did the most, who got the title, who sat closest. Martin's hand closed around his glass. Lila continued. "I made 2 men who loved me stand on opposite sides of a story because I wanted one simple answer. Then I rewarded the person whose hurt I could see and punished the person who hid his." She looked at me. "I'm sorry I needed you to be silent so I could call the day peaceful." Nobody moved. "I'm not asking you to say it's okay," she said. "I just want you to know I see it now." I nodded. Dana took Lila's hand across the table. Martin raised his glass slightly. "For the record, I was never easy to ignore." "No," I said. "You were not." He smiled. Lila sat down, then looked at me again. Do you still have the toast? The question was soft, almost private, but the whole table heard it. No? Her face fell. It went through the washing machine. When? 2 days after the wedding? You washed your suit pants? I washed the pants. The suit jacket was at the cleaners. You left paper in a pocket? I was distracted. Beverly shook her head. Amateur. Lila did not smile. Do you remember it? She asked. Most of it. Will you tell me? I thought about the yellow pages spread across my kitchen counter, each sentence revised until it could survive a room full of people. I remembered the line I had crossed out because it sounded too close to criticism. Being needed is not the same as being loved. At the time, I thought I was warning Lila and Owen. I had not realized I was describing the trap I had built for myself. It belonged to the wedding, I said. Lila looked down at her hands. That isn't punishment, I added. I was a different father when I wrote it. What does that mean? I thought love meant making myself useful enough that nobody could send me away. I don't want to give you that toast now. She nodded, disappointed but trying not to demand more. I do remember the important part, I said. Her eyes lifted. I wrote that you were braver than you knew. I wrote that Owen never made you smaller when you were afraid. Owen stared at his empty plate. That's true, I told him. Thank you. And I hoped the two of you would learn to say the difficult thing before silence made it heavier. Lila pressed her lips together. I failed that part first, I said. But I meant it. She wiped beneath one eye. Would you give us a different toast? She asked. I looked around the table. Martin sat across from me, not beneath me. Dana's hand remained over Lila's. Beverly had stopped performing indifference. Owen waited without trying to rescue the moment. There was no microphone, no master of ceremonies checking a list, no room full of people who needed to understand which man counted more. I lifted my glass, to telling the truth before we asked love to carry it. Lila stood first. The others followed, chairs scraping against the floor. Martin raised his glass toward mine across the table. Dana cried openly and did not apologize for it. Beverly stood in her uncomfortable shoes without complaint. To the truth, Lila said. We drank. Afterward, nobody knew how to sit down naturally. Owen did first, which gave everyone else permission. The evening became ordinary again. Beverly wrapped 2 pieces of cake in foil without asking. Dana offered to drive her home, and Beverly said she had not yet decided whether that was safe. Martin carried dishes into the kitchen, then asked where Lila wanted them, instead of opening cabinets at random. At the door, he shook my hand. I like your board, he said. I like your drill bits. You haven't used them. They're still bits. He pulled me into a quick, awkward hug. Dana hugged me next. I like the toast, she said. It was short. That helped. When they left, Lila, Owen, and I stood in the dining room among half-empty glasses. I'll clean, I said. Lila narrowed her eyes. As a guest, as a person near dirty plates, acceptable. Owen carried the walnut box back to the mantel. Lila gathered the place cards. When she reached mine, she held it between 2 fingers. Do you want this? I thought about the card from the wedding. My name moved 6 tables away. I had no idea what happened to it. A server might have thrown it out with the menus. Dana might have put it in a box. For a year, I had treated that lost card as though it contained the official record of where I belonged. Keep it, I said. Lila opened the little drawer beneath the walnut box. She moved the takeout receipt and the bent house key, making room among the pieces of their first year. Then she placed my name inside. Are you still angry? She asked. Sometimes. Do you forgive me? I looked at her. I believe your apology, I said. I trust what you've done since. That sounds like yes with extra steps. Most real things have extra steps, she smiled. I'm here, I said. This time, she did not mistake that for something guaranteed. She closed the drawer, came back to the table, and sat beside me.